All right.
So needs one, Dusty.
So like I said, where we left off last time, it's coming into January now. There's snow on the ground outside. This region is still fairly desolate. I mean, there's not a lot of trees. You're looking at pretty much straight across just kind of brush terrain. What's the term for kind of a large sandy lot? I'm trying to think of what biome that might be.
Beach?
A sandy lot?
Desert?
No, you're not helpful at all.
A sandbox?
Yep. It's a fairly barren strip of land up in northern New York, and the regions nearby was primarily just set up for industrial usage just because there's nothing really here of value.
It's
I said,
non-agricultural land.
Yeah, it's non-agricultural land. It's rocky, sandy.
Non-arid?
Scrubland?
Arid?
Bit desolate.
Scrub?
New
Scrub
Jersey?
terrain. No, it's not New Jersey. It's farther up.
The Low Canal.
Sandy, rocky, gravelly.
A little bit, kind of like that type of terrain.
So
You purchased some land. What is it? I should say Barton had you help him pay for some land that connected to a creek. You've been aware there's a creek kind of at the far end of your property, but you own hundreds of acres around here. They're finishing up this week on that project. They have a septic system in there, but there's an electrical power running to that facility as of yet. There's not active water unless he wants to pull from the creek. So that's kind of set up. Well, that's what he set up initially. So, as I said before, you guys don't have anything on your agenda that you're aware of, other than starting into this next week, they're going to start sending livestock through the transatlantic gate system. Riker was back. You guys had a Christmas party. He's still in contact all the time through the phone. What is it? The mini electric phonographs that have been provided to you. James Eichholt is starting work on a project where you wanted him to develop some sort of force field in a melee weapon format.
That is correct.
They had some issues with designing the exact dimensions of force fields before. That's why they said that the force field is pretty much a circle. They can't really do too much. It's how the emitter is designed. But they're making headway on it.
Could have a force mace.
They're looking into it right now.
Force flail.
I'm really liking the sword just by itself.
Well, but you got the ball, you can have it on a chain.
I understand that'd be cool, but I'm just going to go with a different direction.
This is a
sword right now, though.
This is another thing that you might not have been aware of. When you get,
it's not a sword; it's a saber.
When you get into contact with B and them, you'll find out. You might find out. I would say that you'd probably share the information. Apparently, Angus Urquhart had brought across. MI5 has been taking a look into it as well, but it seems as though it was serpent technology laid across certain regions of London and Scotland, which apparently are collecting some sort of psychoactive gas.
Yep.
And they don't know much more other than that. It does look like it's not somehow transmitting this gas somewhere. It must be somebody who has to collect this.
Right. They're trying to use it to likely reanimate their asleep.
From what you understand, this gas looked very similar to the type of stuff that they had pulled from Michael Larson when they were trying to reanimate several of the people of the Serpents underground, or is that the hidden colonies. And from what you understand, they can slowly resuscitate sleepers, but it takes much longer through conventional means. And somehow this gas is used in a process to reanimate large quantities of individuals at one time.
So, Jeff, do you have a photographic memory?
So, how about you, Professor?
The professor has been working on a...
Flashcards. 5 points. Or 10.
I do keep track of our different things we've done, research notes and photos, but I don't think I've taken pictures of everyone.
Yeah.
Mental pictures, though.
If you thought of lapel mics, I'm just saying.
That's what I told them. Everyone gets one. They're all mic'd up.
Yeah.
Ginkgo biloba.
I've thought about getting mics. It's just whether or not people would want to wear a mic every time we do set up here.
I want mine to be wireless so I can walk around the store and keep playing.
That's
okay.
You can hear other people, though.
That's okay.
That's okay.
You just be talking to yourself, $5.99? Okay, that sounds pretty good. Just get it on the recording on the back end.
It's on the channel, man. Say over.
Otherwise, you're aware that Frock has been working. He's been back the last week. He's been back at the facility, your facility. He's been working prior he had been training under the tutelage of Dr. Bruce. He's slowly kind of coming back into his own, working on the vital essence arrays here. It seems like he has large gaps in his memory, but otherwise is recovering. He's been having a fair amount of time with the professor, just kind of getting back into the swing of things. The professor had been contacted and had spent some time in Pennsylvania. You don't know what specifically that was to, but you go from country to country and do stuff. And
Pennsylvania is nothing.
So you guys can decide what you want to do. As far as you're concerned, you're aware of certain things on the future, horizon. Supposedly radio communications from the Nemesis star would start arriving in, I would say, April.
So we got to knock down Marmo so we can
And then
knock down the Nemesis
it's only
star.
certain radio towers that would be able to pick that up, like the Eiffel Tower and a few other ones.
So,
Beyond that, heavy cross-bridge particle radiation has been kind of spiking over time, and there's what have you. There's small events here and there, but he only kind of takes the top few items that kind of peek out from the background. So nothing huge like that isn't happening. He said there was a few spikes in the northwest region in America, and there was also many across China, which I'm assuming you guys don't hop on every 3 minutes. There's something in China that's slightly higher than normal.
just keep circling the bowl. We keep watching it get further and further down. Do you think it's going to make it through the hole?
What have you. A lot of the chantry entrances to the regions around China and even some of those connecting to northern Russia have been shut off. So even though the chantry sits in some sort of sub-pocket of space, they are connected from local points which you can gain access to, and the ones on the normal world have been shut down in those regions. So theoretically there might still be some way of getting in through one of those, but they're much harder to. As opposed to, like in Massachusetts, you could physically walk to a bookshop and still get into the chantry.
Right.
So since the two of you have forgot from memory, one other thing that you would have come up that your character would know about, Chris, would be Miss Eckhart gave us some weapons from Camelot.
Ah, yep.
So
She found
Excalibur.
no. She found a site that was associated with Camelot, not the actual tomb itself. But
heard before.
Two long swords, a broadsword, a heavy flail, 3 kite shields, 2 hatchets, and a battle axe. So they're being researched by Michael Larson, the Chantry, to see what they do.
Initial research seemed to indicate that they were
Authentic, right?
They were authentic. They did seem to have some sort of magical enchantment, and there was wards against demons and fairy magic. Mm-hmm. You'd find out that they're very difficult to damage, but it is possible to damage them unless you're using magical force, which then it becomes very difficult to damage them. So a crossbow bolt, and a primal blast would probably have the same effect on the shield, even though a primal blast would be much more destructive normally.
Right. Normally, it should just tear the shield apart.
Yeah, and
the guy next to it.
The guy next to it.
And whoever's holding it. And,
Yep.
Yeah.
But it'll rough up the shield. They assume it might work against things like Dragon's Breath and what have you, other supernatural threats of that nature, but they don't know specifically.
And the shield.
Note to save. We need to find a dragon.
So the other thing that I'll bring to you two guys, since you got photographic memories, she also gave me the Mormonian Codex. I kind of hold a bunch of loose leaf paper that's kind of bound together
By twine, yeah.
by twine.
Great.
So she created this. She wanted it to be hand-delivered to Colonel Ash Smith. It's battle strategies to fight more, how to lure demons at traps, detailed weaknesses for demons, a bunch of different things, basically on kind of her tactical plan and strategic plan on how to take out.
It seemed like there was a good chunk that was, what you would imagine is broadly applicable to any kind of demonic fight against large-scale forces.
Right, armies and
A Zenzu's art of demon warfare.
Right.
But there's a lot of specific stuff to the Mormo and the 42nd Infantry.
Right. So my thought is that maybe Jeb, if you could read the book, since he will remember everything, and you can have appropriate mental words in case there's something in here that's supposed to be a worm to go in your head and make you a puppet or something, should protect you against that. And then after you're done reading it, if we've determined that the text is harmless, we could turn it over to Colonel Ash Smith so he can start to take advantage of what's there.
Yeah.
I
Throwing
think
up
your
a-
plan.
Throwing up a primal flare, nothing shows up.
Yeah.
But you've, over the last several months, come across multiple things where
Nothing.
they don't
And
show
I
up.
don't do a primal flare. Okay. I don't know. who
He's
does
wearing
it.
Kleenex boxes
I
and a
don't.
robe.
There was one time,
Right?
you've been in the chantry since, but there had been one time where you walked into the chantry and you just slung out at a random exit, which that one wasn't too bad. I mean, since you had access to mystical means, I mean, you might have froze there
Yeah.
under normal circumstances, but you were able to get out of there. But imagine if you came out at a Nepalese complex somewhere and you're like, oh, wow, this is pretty bad out here.
There's a lot of
There's
chocho
something in the
here.
distance. Is that a pterodactyl? Hope it's not a pterodactyl. Are pterodactyls vegetarians?
About how many pages is this?
I would probably say like 150.
I could
It's
read
not
it within
huge,
a
but there's a
week.
lot of inked out kind of maps and things of that nature.
Well, it probably won't take me a week. It'll probably take me 2 days to read it.
Yeah.
I'll take 2 days to read it.
All right.
You can give me a research roll.
Can I put points in research since I've been doing it last week?
Yeah, I'll allow you to do that.
Thank God. I need that.
You got a 12 in research, now you got 13.
You're only a detective,
You know,
and you're how
rock
far
that
into the
thing.
game you're like, research. I'm more of a streetwise detective. I go beat some guy up and talk to the local
That failed miserably
snitches.
for me anymore.
Beat
That's
some
because you
guy.
always
Read
used to
this
go
up,
into
you
like
go up.
little Chinatown. You're like, I got gold. Anyone want to tell me some information for gold? You're like, there's a lot of people willing to follow you into an alleyway with your gold coins.
I guess I can't use skill set to change my IQ to perception on that, can I?
If you have an available perk, you can have up to 4 perks that allow you to change the stat to something else that's relative. Like, it'd be difficult for you to do like dex-based intelligence analysis.
Oh.
So,
So I could do research perception then, right?
yes,
It's strength-based.
I have one.
Score, right?
strength-based weapons, maybe strength-based boxing, or even more wrestling, more physical activities.
Hey, how
Yeah.
about driving?
If you're doing heavy wheeled, maybe.
All right. Fair enough.
I wouldn't say so on a motorcycle or a vehicle, but if you're driving a tank or something, I can see you easily flipping through controls.
Right. You gotta muscle it.
All right, I'll do that. I'll put.
So you can give me a research roll.
I'm just redoing this because it's cheaper to do it based on perception.
Suddenly you're good.
Fuck. Yep, and that's my last perk that I could actually use. All right, I'm gonna go right there. Everything else is.
Otherwise, at your complex, those 3 security officers are going through and hiring additional team members. Just they're your 3 head of security.
Yep.
They're also building a fence. While it might not sound like a lot, at least it's something to start with. I mean,
Yep.
well, there's people watching the road. Like, there's hundreds of acres around you where people could just walk up, and if
Yep.
nobody's really paying attention, then somebody just walks up in the compound like, I don't know you.
Yep. Definitely need a fence.
It's a
Put some
place to
barbed
start.
wire on the top.
Yep, at least there's a boundary where you know if people are inside of it or not, they shouldn't be there.
I also want another strand of waist-high barbed wire outside of our normal fence. So we've got a 2-fence system.
Okay, that's easily doable.
Okay.
I mean, it's a lot of fencing, but
Just
you have a
create
fair
no
amount of...
man's land. Sell some mines.
I don't want cows walking up to the fence.
By
or-
3 Ian.
In fairness, over the last year, a lot of your property has been developing outward because there's not only a lot of housing that is now becoming available, where a lot of the researchers have been moving here as their permanent residency, along with family members and things of that nature. You're pretty much just taking at cost levels. You're not making an income on anything else here. So, I mean, you're getting researchers that are maybe paying $300 or equivalent for rent,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. And there's the possibility of expanding that further outward. So you have a lot of homes that are set up with piping, electricity, water,
Waiting for people.
waiting for people.
See? You could be importing the immigrants from the big city. Bring them up here and have them do your stuff. Jeb knows someone who can sell you some Great War mines.
So you made by 3?
Personnel.
Looking it over,
And sew them into your...
it's a lot of what he had said before. It seems as though
man's land?
No.
there are general demon fighting tactics. This book provides you a +2 bonus on the hidden lore occult regarding fighting demons, knowing weak spots. There's even translations for some certain keys and symbols in Infernal that indicate power investiture levels, things of that nature that might be branded onto a demon. There are tactics regarding luring types of demons into traps, given their predisposition toward bloodlust or things of that nature. There are specific information about how the 42nd Infantry might utilize their resources against Mormo or other large demonic armies. And a fair amount of it has some in-depth understanding of how the 42nd Infantry works, how Mrs. Urquhart specifically knows that you're not sure. It might be even through her husband, because he had been working with MI5 for such a long period of time. But it might be through other means as well. It seems as though her general battle, in addition to that stuff, in showing you how to make demon poultices, demon charms, things of that nature, the information she has about the battle tactics within the fight on Mormo essentially boiled down to the 42nd Infantry using a battalion of around 3,000, close to about a third of their total forces, in a heavy assault for about 1 to 2 hours, which theoretically, she doesn't really detail what the tactical team is supposed to do, but you're part of some sort of tactical team that's supposed to go in behind the scenes and cut off the head of the snake, so to speak. That isn't detailed very well. But supposedly, that could be accomplished within 45 minutes to 2 hours, depending on that. So at that point in time, for whatever reason, they show that if that is accomplished, that the demonic forces can be pulled back, and then the 42nd Infantry can do a full retreat. So there obviously it's going to be very bloody for the first hour or two, but hopefully just a whole lot of overpowering force can create a buffer zone. And she talks about fallen bombardment. She even mentions auto-walkers and twin bird engines. You've at one point in time saw a MI5 twin bird, and I showed you a picture of that before. It looked like some sort of advanced bi-wing plane. And you had recently come across what appear to be auto-walkers, and they're full-on within London. There's no separation of any of that high technology. All of it's out in the open. You've seen airships, and there's even a type of ship that Bauer uses that she details called an Asgard type vessel that supposedly is a large, it almost looks like a large naval battleship, other than you can see strange ballasts and other what appear to be aerodynamic features on it. It seems to be some sort of advanced airship. You've seen maybe something like that in in London before?
Sort of like the Sky Captain model.
Someone. There hasn't been much use for naval vessels with the war against the deep ones, just because there was such an overwhelming destructive force that they could bring to anything on the water. It wasn't worthwhile to send anything there. It was their home territory. There was too many issues with it getting sunk. The only thing that had any kind of survivable period of operation time was air vessels. And then strange storms started to occur, and that primarily inhibited them moving large forces without strange lightning storms happening, things of that nature, which could still theoretically bring down an airship, but they don't immediately get ripped to shreds.
After my 2 days of research, I sit around with everyone and tell them pretty much what I...
Okay.
+2 to demons. I like that.
It details things like certain types of demons, what to look for to identify them, and know there are certain things like even that you didn't know about Byakhee. There's certain regions that you can shoot a Byakhee where it wouldn't kill it, but if you get it relatively where there might be a spinal cord on a normal human, if you end up hitting a Byakhee with a large round there that's made of iron, it completely it disrupts their body's ability to create lifting fields. Because you know that their wingspan doesn't allow them. They use some sort of supernatural or mystical means to propel themselves. Apparently, if there's some sort of raw iron there, they can't move. They can run around the ground, but they can't fly anymore. So there's various things of that for a whole slew of different demon types. Even a couple that you've come across, like Dragoni and what have you.
So some of the demon types we've come across were infernal?
So Fomori, various types of Banes. The Fomori are primarily human conscripts that have been changed by various spirits, so kind of hybrids. Byakhee, Night Gaunts. Let me double check my list here.
So you have infernal, outsiders. I mean, I just need the category types. So when some of these names pop out, I just want to go inside the Mew book and be like, okay, is there one for demons? Is it for infernal? Is it for outsiders?
Primarily, these seem to be spirits. Demons, really, just from the broad scheme of things, only really.
So it would be an evil spirit?
Yeah, evil spirit. Because the distinction between demons and other types of spirits sometimes are very close, and it's purely disposition or orientation. There are variants of emotional spirits that are like Banes, but you wouldn't call them a demon because it's a spiritual entity that feeds on hope or things of that nature, rather than anger or vengeance. So really evil spirit or malign spirit.
So as soon as I get done reading that, I'll try to go through the book of Mew and try to figure out the Mew symbol for evil and the Mew symbol for spirit.
Okay. Give me a research roll on the first one.
By 2.
You're not quite sure. I mean, you can find darkness,
Unclean.
malevolence, unclean. You're not sure if that's what specifically you're looking for. As I said before, you have the translation book here, but there's not a native speaker that can tell you the
Well, we do. He's
fundamental.
not here right there.
You've had no contact with, as far as you
Law
can
Nah.
tell, with the law now.
So I'll wait, go back the next day, and
With your book, or?
I'll try to research some more.
Okay.
I'm going to take time on this.
Now,
The Mew? Okay.
so he's about 3 days in. Are you guys doing
Sure.
anything?
I'm reading the Mew book that he gave me.
Okay. As I said before, it provides a
For
distinction for hypertech. From what you understand, this particular book might not have the same things that Walter Riker is aware of. What you saw before with your linguistics is apparently Law Na has a language from the time period, very ancient, very powerful, but apparently these individuals from the Silver Ladder have created a modern version of Mew that exists outside of our normal dimension or
Okay.
universe, and apparently it's been technicalized. So the two languages are related. Think of like old Roman Latin and modern, like a modern technical language.
Yep.
So they have you could understand the two if you knew the two languages, but they're not necessarily the same.
Right.
However, Riker apparently knows at least some of those.
I'm reading to garner what I can.
Okay.
Your mind will be blown.
My mind will be blown. That's fine.
From the book, as I'd said before, you can try to find out any particular word any word that you can think of throughout the tome, and try to figure out, like I said before, the researchers, what it means, and then you have to learn that. The ones that Walter Riker knows on that list, he has a good understanding of what they do. Otherwise, you'd have to somehow get into contact with this organization, the Silver Ladder, to learn any more of that specific. But
Okay.
theoretically, if you knew a word in this, you would know a word in that. But it might be slightly different.
It's an instead of an
Yeah. Spain Spanish and Mexican Spanish.
Right. I understand what you're saying.
Otherwise, I believe, what the hell is it? There was a fair amount of Acheron that was introduced within this new Muir language. This new language. So learning Acheron might drastically help your ability to understand some of the technology that Walter Riker had come across.
Are there other names for Akron, like Akkadian, or no?
If you've written down the serpent language, it is the same.
I've got a snake man, but yes. Okay. It's also called Akron.
It's officially called Acheron.
Okay.
You can
I
give me
learned
a...
that the hard way.
You can give me
learned it.
an anthropology, or you can give me a
I didn't.
what the hell is it? A
Anthropology is
mythos.
Fine. Anthropology is fine. This mythos is better. Anthropology made it by 3.
From what you understand of some of the recent information that had come across, Acheron is a language, but also it was at a capital on the continent of Mu some time ago, supposedly a capital city for serpents. And that's originally where the origins for humans supposedly were on that region. And the first like documented evidence you ever come across, even through some of the stuff you've recently come across, was humans being a slave species to the serpents, and Acheron was the main location.
Okay.
You talk to
So
artists
it's a
very
place
often?
and a language.
You talk to artists
Gotcha.
very often?
Yeah.
Is he permanently with you now?
I'm on probation.
Way to go. Piss off your cat already.
Well, it's not that he pissed off his cat. It's just he's.
It's like a trial
The
period.
cat pissed me off.
There was one. The cat was offended that he's like, no, I work with the demons because I need to do that right now. Now I'm going to work with you because I need to do that right now.
Exactly. Just trying to be
You
share a
know, I
little
need to take a
honesty.
shit in your shoe
Could
right now because I need to do that
Could
right
I buy
now.
1 point in intelligence with the stuff I've been doing?
Have you bought a point of intelligence in the past?
No, it's always been at 15.
Okay, yeah, that's totally fine then. So you're trying to research more regarding Mu technology.
Yes, especially the fundamentals.
There's the engineering symbols that he is aware of. There's also engineering apotheo, which is on that list. But if you don't have engineering dark fluid, I would highly suggest you learn that first.
I have engineering dark fluid, I know I do. And I might even have engineering apotheo. I'm looking. Wow. I don't have engineering dark fluid.
How Riker would describe it is a lot of the advanced technology has been developing is using dark fluid techniques.
Oh
and
no, it's down there. It was split up.
he would equate that to kind of the super science you've been seeing, but he says that apotheo engineering is a level beyond that, which kind of blurs the lines between what is real and what's not. Your ring is the only thing he's ever really built in
I've
that.
got apotheo too.
Those would be the two things. From there, you can try at least developing certain things, but you don't even have a way of collecting apotheo particles
So dusty.
in this reality. At least not now. You
trying to
need
make
to
a
develop
spell
some
tree
way.
for the Mu
Most likely
language.
using dark fluid technology.
Fucking complicated. Just to find the right terminology to
And-
to
Apotheo particles are on magnitude higher than dark fluid,
I guess
where dark
so.
fluid has these strange reactions. Apotheo particles are
practicing
literally a
disintegrate
chaos
on
particle
life.
so
Yeah.
chaotic it becomes
So,
stable,
I'm looking
completely
now to
stable.
amplify human.
But in itself, it is a pure chaos particle.
I was
Gotcha.
trying
So
to
these are the
negate-
same things that would have been released during the Big
Counter
Bang
road.
or the creation of the universe.
Negate what?
So that's the type of shit that you're dealing with right there. So a slip up could easily.
That one didn't
Unravel
go so
something
well.
important.
I almost
Yeah. You'd imagine if somebody
Because it negated
weaponized
everything.
that would be
All
pretty much
that.
endgame type stuff.
like,
Gotcha. Well, it's best that I learn about it instead of
Because-
other people.
I think
So,
if I
is there any
disintegrate
particular
human
type of way
spirit,
that you wanted to try to develop those? So
That might
you have a little
help
bit of
us.
engineering knowledge regarding it right now.
I do.
I think just disintegrating an individual will help us all.
Ask that question one more time. Is there
So you said
any-
you wanted to learn more about the
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah.
You have some basic fundamentals with the level of engineering in each.
Right.
You might actually want to start developing or at least getting the physics behind it. I think there might also be like dark fluid physics and apotheo physics, and that would allow you to answer more questions about what you might be able to do with it. While engineering is the practical usage of it.
All right. In that case, I begin to do research in those areas, like the physics and the engineering of the apotheo particles, for theoretical things that I could do with them, that I can release my other engineers to do the dirty work. Instead of me trying to do everything from the ground up, I'll start
Jason
from the top
Eichholt
down.
has been developing certain dark fluid technologies, but primarily the forefront was Walter Riker. When you're getting to apotheo level particles, that's something that barely you and Walter Riker can get a hold of. You're not sure who you can hand off apotheo particle development to.
Right.
You crash course now.
I suggest Trevor.
I have
Because
15
he's got like
minutes.
20 projects on the back burner right now, and not a single one is a complete.
He's still pushing the ball.
He's actually done pretty good with this stuff.
I would equate it to there. What is it? You and Walter Riker, Geordie LaForge, and what the hell is it? Scotty. And you're on a early Earth period, and they're like, who are you going to hand this off to? And you're like, we got to get the teleporters back and running. Have that guy do it. He's like, what? Transparent aluminum? Where am I? what's going on.
Steve.
Jameson Eichhold is fairly intelligent, but when you're dealing with this sort of things, your 18s are starting to become where you want to start with apotheo engineering.
All right. What I'm hearing...
However, I will say that damn near anything you would want to do normally, you could probably accomplish through dark fluid engineering. Apotheo is in some very high-level stuff. I can't foresee anything that you might want to do using that right now.
Power armor.
It's a little bit like saying, well, I want a gun that shoots nuclear explosions. Like, why do you want a gun that shoots nuclear explosions?
So I have power.
Yep.
People whisper in my ears. I try to do things with it.
This is just for Thomas, if he's listening out there.
Otherwise, there are the engineering symbols that Walter Riker is aware of, and he does somewhat have some understanding of some of the other ones, and he could gain access to more of them. You are aware that the Silver Ladder is an organization that exists somewhere on the outside of the rip that's above Nepal, keeping the boundaries closed from that side. How something could exist in chaotic space, or at least uncreation, you don't know.
The last guy we know that did that was Tiomi.
Everything in that particular...
He came back different.
Yep, so you don't understand how someone could live in a realm where you would completely unravel. However, is there anything that you wanted to work on during that time? So I'd say the two things are physics. Physics for dark fluid, physics for apotheo particles. That would allow you applicable roles to figure out how you'd go about doing something. What it's capable of doing.
I pick up those two skills.
Okay. So you can start asking me questions about what you may want to do with certain types of projects.
All right. Physics apotheo, physics dark fluid.
Mm-hmm.
Winning at something.
I'll continue the training with Artemis, and then in the midst of that, I ask him if he can. So I have a moral conundrum. Perhaps he can advise me as how you think it would be.
He can try to
handled, or what the appropriate view that Bast would have. So,
he could definitely tell you his belief in what Bast's perspective might be.
Okay, and I'm assuming in turn that would translate into what her followers should follow, correct?
Yep, he believes so.
So, if there were some wizards of dubious backgrounds and they created via human host in the form of an infant, the reincarnation of an ancient evil, how does Bast feel about smothering said baby in the crib?
There isn't a disposition against... Bast doesn't have a disposition. Some of the cats don't like deep ones and things of that nature, but that's actually not really from Bast.
Yeah.
Those are a natural creature of this planet, good or evil.
Yeah.
So serpents, humans, deep ones, even ghouls, they don't necessarily have an issue with them. So the followers, depending if they worship some sort of outer god or some sort of concept like that, they would definitely have an issue with from anything on the outside. An ancient...
It's an Indian deity for destruction or rebirth. Change.
You'd have to know more about the deity.
I explained to him what about the deity is. So I recall as the Indian god of change and typically destroyed everything that existed now to create something new.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess depending upon if you're in the current or if you're going to be in the after, it would probably affect how you feel about it.
He's not quite sure because he doesn't know where the origins of that creature lie. He'll have to sleep on this.
Okay.
Cats sleep
right
18
there.
hours a day, so that's good.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait till tonight or anything.
Welcome to my world, buddy.
So here's another one.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say there's an evil, some deep ones, and they're doing some things, and they've taken over a town, and you're in the midst of the fight, and they've taken some innocence's protective shielding. So can you shoot through the innocents to kill them, knowing that the greater good would be saved?
As he said before, definitely he would align himself closer to good. He doesn't necessarily see them as deep ones in general as a unnatural creature because they come from this world. But he would say to maintain stability, it would be under your own discretion whether or not how you handle that.
Okay.
They have, I suppose, less of a definitive boundaries regarding good and evil and things of that nature.
So if there's some truly innocent people that just happen to get caught in the crossfire, that's not a huge issue. I mean, obviously, you're not.
You said you would try to not cause any kind of issue,
absolutely. The assumption isn't that you're not intentionally targeting.
If you believed you had to,
okay,
then maybe.
All right. Well, get back to me.
He'll give you a firm maybe.
A firm maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, get back to me on what you think about the baby, the reincarnation of the evil god, and being able to smother it in its crib. So
he's probably 12 now. You know that, right?
What's that?
You know he's probably 12 now.
I don't know where he is. We should go find him and kill him. And then
That was a to-do list long gone.
I forgot to ask. What did we get for experience last time?
2 points.
Okay.
So he should be at 520.
And then, so I'll continue practicing his, what was it, surf dance, I think, was the thing where you're supposed to get all the way to the bullets, do the matrix.
I think so.
Right.
Let me double check here.
So I'll practice that, meditate, and try to generally get rid of paradox. And
well,
then I will.
You've lost some so far. You're not sure. The only way that you can normally tell how that's doing is by checking through the use of magic.
Yeah.
Supposedly, B can see something with one of the detectors.
I'll inquire with the chantry people if when they come by for their mule runs, if any of them know entropic predictions.
I would say that Roy does.
Roy, can you do
taking
me
a look
solid?
at you? He would say that your levels are still pretty high. He understands that you're.
Where would you put me at?
You'd say you have maybe around.
On the 1 to 10 scale.
You'd say around 7.
7.
He says he wouldn't do anything if you should just take
That's a huge improvement.
vacation.
I'm excited.
He says he wouldn't try anything mystical.
No, of course not. That'd be foolishness. It'd be like someone who wanted to flay themselves alive.
He says that he can't predict. Nobody can predict what paradox does. It just
exactly. I thank him for his time, and then I'll ask if he can inquire if Michael Larson is done with the. Does he have anything for us on the weapons?
He can inquire the next time he's there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That's what I do.
You're aware that they use communication stones, and theoretically he could get to Michael Larson right away, but that would be an escalation of.
Yeah. So no rush right at the moment.
So 3 days in. What did you want to do during that time period?
Was
so can
I
I put
still
another point into the surf thing?
I would
Just
say,
at one point.
Let me open up my cat spells here.
Say average.
3 days. You have an active teacher. It's average. Is it average? I think it's hard.
No, you told me average. I don't know what it is.
Oh, there's surf dance, and then there's the slipstream. Surf
Slipstream,
dance.
you said it was hard, I think.
Yeah. The surf dance over 3 days, yeah. I would allow you another point to that.
Okay.
And it's strange, you do generally need some sort of full body motion. If you're mediumly encumbered, you'll actually start taking a penalty to your roll, but you don't need a symbol or anything else like the chantry spells.
Okay.
And it is a bit strange in the fact that you're not creating bent space around you. Your body is literally kind of tucking and curling into odd angles.
That's right. I'm the Matrix man.
Well, in the Matrix, you'd just be moving too quickly for the
true.
rounds to hit.
Right.
In this instance, when you kind of go to the left, you're actually spiraling slightly into
Another dimension.
Your form
near
is
space.
pushing into space that it shouldn't normally connect to.
Okay.
So normal space is not affected whatsoever. It's merely your body is bobbing and weaving into regions it shouldn't normally have the reach to get to.
Okay.
Am I still working on those gates?
I would say that took about 1 week. So you'd have time after that.
I want to check up on Althea and Frank quite a bit. See what
You
they're
can
doing.
visit B's complex quite a bit. I'd say Frank has been living here. They closed up his clinic. He's probably getting that back set up in Brooklyn. The curfew is still in effect inside of New York City. The 42nd Infantry is still very active in that region. Otherwise, I would say Franck lives on site up at B's facility and then works with not Walter Riker, but Gabriel Verus, since he was one of the originators of this, vital essence generation system. He's doing fairly well, other than he has gaps in his memory, and he's a little bit aloof, but otherwise he seems to be doing fine. And Ben can play him when he gets here. Yeah. Althea Montrose is continuing to learn a lot of spells. I've been updating her spell list as well. She's learning a lot about wards, protective type magic. She finds a specialization in that. She's been looking into Carcosa. Before, she hasn't heard word of anything else. She'll tell you that there are ways into Carcosa, but one would have to be able to protect themselves. She believes that spirits in China, Nepal, Indonesia, in India, New Guinea even, individuals that aren't very willful disappear into the mists, and she believes that some of their spirit resides in Carcosa. It's not that they're particularly malevolent, it's just they're so they become so mad they don't know anymore.
She knows that Frank's back?
No one has ever...
Right,
no one outside of you individuals and the people at B's lab. When Lana visited you in the night, you guys had gotten... what the hell have you, Franck out of there fairly quietly, so nobody's aware other than your people.
Then I'll update her on what happened, how we got him back, but explain a part of him is still back there. So
she says if it didn't come from you, she wouldn't believe it. She had heard that the King in Yellow had attacked the Chantry, but how one would take a part of his being and reconstitute it into something else. Or at least, she says, she apologizes. I mean, he was that person before, but from her understanding, I mean, it's just he's become something else now.
I think it was the safest option at the moment without killing everyone, going over there to save him, but I'm working with him. And
she says you should inform, I'm not sure if you guys informed Michael Larson about Franck's reappearance. I can't remember offhand. She would recommend doing that just in case.
I'll do that then.
Because
he's a Chantry member, so we would have told him.
He is a Chantry member, but the last several times he's come into the Chantry, I mean, you had found out that...
We told him because he was the one who was the Trojan horse.
Yep. So, okay, we'll assume that you told Michael Larson, and now Althea knows about it. But there's still a lot of people at certain Chantry entry points that are looking for that individual.
To kill on site.
Tell me about Althea Montrose, because I've lost
the rules are... the protocols are to warn someone, because if they see an entity like that, they assume it is the King in Yellow, so they are not engaging at all. They are immediately informing everyone they can. Panic room, getting the people out, and then informing the tribunal members as quickly as possible. Because really those are the only people that are capable of dealing with the entity. There's no reason for the other engagement. You hear over the speaker like, "Oh God, it's all killing us." You're like, "Yeah, that's standard horror movie fare. You shouldn't have attacked the aliens. Should have got back to the safe room."
So what has she been working on then? Is there anything?
Althea Montrose, if you remember, was originally the librarian at the Glasgow Library during the time period of the ghoul infestation. Apparently the ghouls had developed a massive colony underneath Glasgow, and they had eaten all the bodies there and ran out of their food source. Then another individual, I think Jason, or I think like a Jason Carlson or something like that, was the local mortician, or not the mortician, but he was the city coroner.
Yeah.
And he apparently, he had died along the way. Apparently, one of the lead ghouls had but told him that they were trying to get access to a black book, which would allow them to, I suppose, move and find new food sources. But he was feeding them the dead of the city, satiating, trying to prevent them from just full on going in the surface and eating everyone in Glasgow. So just throwing them kind of bits and pieces of people that are dying. And you guys had followed up that investigation. There was a strange hunting horror on the roof that people couldn't see, and he wasn't telling you information. And you guys had
electrocute. You're dead.
You didn't electrocute him.
No, we just brought him out where he could be electrocuted.
You guys, Daniel had used a truth powder that apparently Legendre or Dr. Gravenhurst had
That's what fucked me
developed,
over.
and everyone within the quarantine area, and there was no good ventilation. I mean, it's 1930s.
That was awesome.
Was subject to the powder. He spilled the beans. He said that he's watching me, and if he finds out, he's going to attack the city, and so on and so forth. And later on, it seemed like his usefulness was used up, and a hunting horror had picked him up, and he spontaneously had probably about 100,000 volts, several amps running through his system.
So it's not the volts. It's that. Yeah.
It is.
See how-
You're right.
So, but he can't confirm that he's dead. His body had disappeared.
He was atomized carbon.
The blanket you had him wrapped in spontaneously caught fire, and then you lost track of him. And then sometime later, the hunting horror came back, and
did things to us.
yeah.
So, what's she been working on? Has she learned anything new?
She just told you a bunch.
She told her the stuff about Carcosa. She believes that a lot of the people that have been disappearing into the mist with low willpower have simply become spiritual residents in Carcosa. They're trapped there. She doesn't know how to get them out. Carcosa originally was some sort of she said at some point in time it was some sort of spiritual nexus point which allowed travel to mirror multiple other dimensions and planets and even mirror Earths, alternate Earths. But at some point in time it was used to trap something very powerful, maybe even Haster himself. They're not sure. And then since the boundaries have been broken once again, it's slowly becoming this nexus point. Obviously, you guys had found out some way of slowing that from happening, but there are still a lot more things that should normally be able to get to Earth. They're now starting to appear. And she had mentioned before, you had heard before, things about like giant dole worms and even what appears of dragons, undead creatures, yada yada, in the Chinese area. I mean, a dole worm is probably about 2 miles long. It topples mountains, so
Spits acid.
creates a channel.
The great stuff.
And apparently hunting horrors and star vampires are the common in the mists.
Then I suppose I'll check up on
There's a little tissue in there.
You never reach the
Franz
bottom.
then.
That's the sad.
And I would like to ask Gabriel Varus if he
Well, it's the bottom,
ever...
and it just kind of swirls, and you see it kind of gurgle back.
Because
up,
I'm not
get trouble.
as strong physically as my companions. Like, I want to learn about, like, how I can, like, not get killed. That's what I'd like to know. Like,
Mrs. Eckhart already told you how not to be killed. Go
no.
visit her.
If I converted to there, I'd already be dead.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah. I can't.
Browning's
I
still
can't.
alive.
Yeah, he looks very healthy.
Destroy
Look,
you.
he grew back his legs. That's
The real
pretty
Browning's
freaking
dead.
amazing.
Yep.
The real
Browning,
Brown is dead.
over the last few weeks, I would say within the first week, Browning had regrown his legs. He seems to rapidly regenerate, and he's completely fine. His disposition has never changed.
is
He
there a
seems to
way-
have no long-term effects of psychological trauma.
Is
He
there-
just gets over it, and he still does things like pulls out cookie pans with his bare hands. He's like, these cookies are delicious. Somebody else is like, oh, oh my god, it's really hot. And he's like, yeah, it's like super hot.
Is there a way that I can
More for me.
do that without going against the Bass teachings?
If you find a way, let me know, because I'm on that bandwagon.
Honestly,
The problem-
it's irony right now that you guys ostracized me for joining Demon Side, and then all of a sudden
It's
like, you know
hilarious.
what? I want to be a demon worshiper.
You were enjoying it while you were there. You're like, I didn't
He's
read
got
shit.
other
Fire
spells
magic,
that I don't
bitches.
have to worship demons.
That's okay.
Yo, fire
I pointed that out to
Your
Artemis.
primary
That was
religion,
a
you
proselyte
are
by
technically
the ex-demon worshipping priest.
you are technically worshipping
I just find it
Bast.
irony. All the shit you guys gave me,
The-
everybody's like,
I'm
you know,
not
I want
asking
that.
to worship any
chasing that.
demons. This is
No, but-
spells right
So far,
here.
the
But what
cat
I'm
got
saying
past my
is,
desk. I can smother babies in their crypt.
Resurrection spells, regeneration.
You're aware
spells.
that based on your religion, it would be a little bit of heretical to work with demons on such a huge level like that. I mean, you are, for the most part, worshiping Bast, so according to Christianity, you're heretic, so everything's really relative. Mrs. Urquhart said she didn't have an issue with you cross...
Pollinating or whatever you want
what did
to
it
call
I'm
cross...
talking to Varus.
cross worshipping, but obviously the cats, one of the 3 tiers of their religion is to prevent
it. Anti-demon.
the coming of outer
Outer entities.
outer entities, not of this world.
Yeah.
And obviously a lot of these demons, not every one of them, but a lot of them can be categorized as such.
Does Varus have any spells like that?
Varus has a fair amount. He
He got regeneration.
He has a modified.
Does he have
he
any
uses.
sort of like resurrect? Because if
You can
I
give
get
me a
hit
body
for
language on that.
15, I'm down.
You know what? The cats have one.
You can
It's
give me
called
a body
sustained
language.
Existence. You can go
That's
to
Yeah.
slightly something else.
yeah, but it's gonna.
It could keep you alive.
Because
Yeah.
most of the time we're going to be getting is primal damage. Sustained existence is going to keep you a
So
little bit more
you can give me a body language on that.
rooted.
You know that Varus uses a modified system that he had developed from the Chantry. It is still using primarily a heavily sigil-based pattern, but he used them as some sort of elaborate crawling tattoos, as he calls them.
I didn't know what 8.
What is it? When you ask him about resurrecting the dead, bringing a dead person back to
I don't want
life.
to be a zombie.
Yep, I understand. But your original
But I
question,
can't help
he does say that it's not something like that isn't practical because somebody wouldn't come back right.
you. I know. I've been to Pet
Greater
Cemetery.
evil.
But he hasn't. He didn't say no to your answer.
Exactly. Well, when you're Dr. Mengele and you've done
You
all
know,
the things.
there is also another spell that the cats do called like Shrug It Off, which takes
but
physical damage and turns it into blunt damage.
He will tell you. Can I see this list here really quick? He will tell you that there is a spell.
Here's the spell list here.
Yeah, let me see his spell list.
You could always buff up Deflect Harm and Deflect
I
Harm
do,
and
but
Deflect Prime.
I'm gonna eat
He'll
your
tell
shield,
you
too.
that his one of the
Shield.
crawling tattoos called Compressed Life Force
Not 100.
can allow you
Have
to
finished
compress.
checking out the Yip stuff that I gave you.
You didn't tell me it was this stuff. You said, here's some stuff, check it out. If you told me it was this stuff, top of the stack, will you tell me, here's some stuff, check it out?
That's a lot of information coming from Jeb. You're lucky he even said there were things. He's like, I
Hey.
found these
Yeah,
on
you're lucky he
a
shared
platform somewhere. They fell off a truck.
Yep. He did check them out because that's where we got the force field generator.
A couple of the object had been checked out. Not everything. And
You're
B
correct.
doesn't always check in with the researchers.
No, you are correct. So, I got to check out a hookah.
However, Varus will tell you that
It's like a palm
one of the
size-
crawling tattoos
palm-sized object.
that he has is called Compressed Life Force, and you can take your what he would say is your metaphysical life force and compress it into a small region, allowing you to survive trauma that would otherwise incapacitate or completely kill you. Meaning a massive portion of your rib cage is just missing, or
the cats
you're
have that
blown.
kind of stuff?
Your body has been blown out from the lower, everything from the rib cage down is gone. Normally, that would kill a person. Just due to blood loss, trauma, yada, yada, yada. But through this use of this particular rune, you could pull all of the remaining life force up into your chest cavity
what's this
and
crawling
survive.
stuff?
They're a modified
sigil.
form of the Chantry spells. They're still a symbol-based magic, but he primarily uses a series of interconnected runes on his person, which actually Angus Urquhart actually uses something. He has one or two abilities that are similar to that, so it's not wholly off that. You know that he has the tattoos that are connected onto the body. How he describes the crawling tattoos is they're an interconnected form of a mystical central nervous system. They run from the back of your head to all across your body, and that's how you would tap into them. Rather than creating a remote sigil, you physically have to be connected into your network for this new sigil to work. But you have much more rapid response time to using them.
Okay.
If you have a fire symbol on your hand, then there you go. It happens.
So you just need
You
to
can
ask
also
contestants.
research Mew for some key words to see if we can find stuff that can enhance it, like
We know Undeath works really well.
Unlife.
Unlife.
Unlife works really well.
Yep.
I've only got
Like
rib
Mew
cage
Health,
Unlife.
Mew.
Does Varus know anything about the Mew stuff?
He says he has very little understanding of that.
Out of the
He-
group,
Ask
I'm
him
the
how much
expert.
quintessence it takes for him to give you that tattoo. He'll tattoo you for money. Quintessence.
The base tattoos, if you learn how to use them, don't require any kind of quintessence. They're purely a symbol on your person. There are some tattoos that are permanent and work like enchantments, but they're different because it's enchanted onto your person.
Right, but you pay him and he does it.
He could,
Yeah. So you
for
should,
some of them.
you should ask him if that's possible for him to do that for you.
I don't
'Cause that would be
know.
pretty cool. I could be paying for that too.
I'll consider it. I'll do more research.
Also, there's the possibility of merely learning those spells. And you are aware that Frock can actually teach you some of the crawling sigils that he had learned from Varus himself.
I'm afraid it'll be tainted.
No, just ask him how much it costs.
You wanted him back.
You don't even know if you can.
Now you're afraid that he's
I'm back,
tainted?
but
Yeah.
I'm not gonna.
You don't even know if you can do it for a price. You should ask him what the price is first.
Well, how much is it then to do that?
He tells you that that is one of the sigils he could create. The only failure of that is he'd create the sigil in which your life force would be bound, meaning it would be almost impossible to kill you unless this rune is disrupted. At that point, this could be used as a critical hit location on your person. This rune.
It's your Achilles heel.
So if,
on your
if
heel.
the you,
My
if,
whole body
if
is
the
my
rune-
Achilles heel at this point.
as he described, if the rune is on your foot, an injury to your foot would cause a reaction as though you had been stabbed in the lungs, because the vast majority of your life force is harnessed into this area. The benefit being, if you got stabbed in the heart, there's actually not as much life force in that region
How
as
many
there would be
times have
normally.
you rolled the ass location for a critical hit?
A
Or
couple
hit?
lots.
Really?
He's blown off
Can we
lots
put
more
it?
parts.
Can we put the sigil like on another object? Like put it in storage somewhere? and be
The
like,
crawling
okay,
sigils require it to be on your person. He is aware of
Like a gold ring.
an ancient Egyptian ritual that he's not terribly comfortable with, a portion ka, which entails you putting your vital organs in locations that won't get hurt.
Like jars.
Like, what is it?
I think
like
Egyptian
ceramic
are
jars.
the best, right? Put it in feline jars? Okay, well,
So where would you
buy shit in the
recommend putting
dreamland.
such a sigil?
He generally, what is it?
Your
He would
upper
say
palate?
At the cat.
the back of the
Dark
head.
side of the moon.
I mean, if that region is
Yeah,
already
this
going to
cat's
get blown
ain't gonna
out, it's,
It's already the show's over.
yeah.
Do you remember how many Mom Malone's ley line? How many quintessence they produced?
From that location, I think you found that there was
Put it on the back of your
close
head.
to about 1 or 2 a
I
week.
know how much
Okay,
it
and I
costs.
Excuse
I
me.
did ask him.
He said he could do it. He didn't
I think
say
there
it
was
cost
one or two a
It's
day.
really
I would
good
say
at not
1 a
answering
day.
questions.
One a day, so
Scroll down.
7
I know
a
it's
week.
uncomfortable with him.
And we were
but-
splitting 50-50.
No, because remember,
Me and the
he
guy that helped
got
me.
hit in the groin. with
Yeah,
like
so
an
every
axe
week
or
you get about
something.
3.5.
All right.
How much does it
Well, your
cost?
foreskin.
For that particular hard,
She's Jewish.
It never
Character
7.
is Jewish.
it's permanent.
See, back to the jars thing. Man.
I'm up to 35. 36.
He'd probably say for you 18 quintessence,
Average about 3.5 quintessence a week.
something like that could be done.
For me?
But he says that
Okay.
the downfall of the crawling sigils, while they aren't enchanting a separate object, over
I have
time
my
your
own.
body degrades the rune. So you'd have to get it reinstated every 4 or 5 years, depending on your.
Well, I'd be lucky to live
I
for
have a
5
ley line.
years, so. Save up.
He's just making you aware.
I just need short term. I don't need long term. Cancer, you say? But in the future, sign me up.
Oh, jeez. How much quintessence do I actually even have?
I'm
I
not
have
sure.
no idea.
Trevor tries to kid as much as he can.
He is a whore.
I'll be paying you in the group 1 a month or 1 a week. I can't remember.
Are you talking about Varus?
Yeah, my cascading stuff.
So far, Bruce decided to come on and help you. You haven't officially signed him on to anything.
Okay.
It seems like some of his people from the Blue Clinic have moved to this location, given the strange things that have been happening in the Midwest, even in Chicago.
Yeah.
He's never fully signed on. I said before, there's some oddness, like he's a bit antisocial and doesn't quite get along, but he seems to have a mastery of this alchemy stuff.
Okay.
So officially, you're not paying him anything as of yet.
Right.
The people underneath that, you're paying a total of 8 quintessence a week out
Yeah.
of your pool.
You don't
I
have to
think
pay me.
All right.
Trevor was
I'll
made
throw
to
mine
give me
back.
10,
I have my own
and
supply that-
he gave me 12.
Okay, so then you'd have 22.
There you go.
There you
So
go.
that could
You
be
can
done.
buy it. Put your
Just-
cash on the barrelhead.
Put the quintessence
Come and tell
down
me how it
and
works.
show him a body part. And
Pudding still loves you or not.
I wouldn't recommend arms and legs.
Well,
You'd be
what
aware
does
the cat
Pudding
doesn't really
say?
care. It not only comes from a Terran source, but there's nothing wrong with
just
him.
not
He's not demonic,
It's
so
been 4 weeks, right?
it's been 4 weeks right now. Yeah, 4 weeks and some change in this week.
So do you think, Jeb, if the Sleep of Ages, do you think that'll get rid of Paradox?
Okay, I'll
Speed
get it.
up.
It did before.
And
We
then,
did it once
in
before.
I got my
the
willpower
meantime,
back.
can I research more
Yeah,
vast
it'll-
stuff?
Artemis would actually tell you that he doesn't think that would actually go away that quickly.
Okay.
It seems to bind to your system. He would say try relaxing, maybe go to a spa, eat some different types of foods,
Okay.
chill out,
I
maybe
know
go to a
spa you
party.
can go
All right.
to.
I meditate. I take him to a party. We go down. Actually, we're not in New York anymore.
No. You're at B's facility. You could go to
It's
New York.
upstate New York. I mean, you
I
get
borrow,
your car,
some,
you're-
I borrow somebody's car, so we drive down. We go to the.
it's gone.
No, you can go into New York.
Yep,
A
we'll
lot
go
of the
down to
researchers still do as well, because apparently, like I said a few weeks ago, there was an individual that always went to New York for this delicious Chinese food.
I find out where he's going next, because that's where the next crime's going to.
He's been eating locally a lot recently, vegetables, things of that nature, fresh market
Vegetables.
stuff. Yep, the farmer's market.
That's hilarious.
He's a
He's still there gnawing on cucumbers.
Yep.
Cucumbers are
What's this
people.
one called?
Are they?
But no,
So
I
what's
go
this
visit
tattoo
Elvis then.
called?
Oh, no.
it'll take by the end of the week, so you can mark that down. He'll work for it, and that's roughly at cost. The sigil is probably about the size of a fist, and it would have to be somewhere on your person. He would say the back of your head. I mean, if somebody hits you in the back of the head now with like a blackjack, that's going to be more effective than it would normally be. But of all the locations, if your brain is going to be destroyed, there's
Well,
not too much compressed life force can
Where
do for
would
you.
you suggest is the most effective? Like the taint? Most can like uppercut
No,
the taint, right?
he says that since your head location is already vital, you might as well have the two there.
Right.
It makes it a little bit worse for vitality, but that means that you could theoretically survive getting cut in half.
Right. You could just be a head.
Your head could get cut off, and you could attempt to recover
Get
from
back
that.
here, body.
So I have to wear protective gear on my head.
No, yeah.
Well, he said,
Special person.
your head is as vulnerable as it would have been normally. It's just it's now a little bit more
all
so.
the time now.
So the object would generally be on the back of your head. You would have to shave it, of course, and he would do it in a type of fluorescent dye. So
Okay.
under a black light, he could see what he's doing, and otherwise people wouldn't be able to tell what's
My
there.
beautiful hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do it. And then, is there time after that to research some more bass stuff?
This will happen by the end of the week, so depending on what happens from there, it's not set up as of yet.
Jeb, we need to research how to become an avatar of Bast. So we're like,
Make your cat Voltron.
yeah.
Me and my cat can transform already.
So we got a
Yeah,
leg,
but
a
if
leg,
you got
a torso.
3
we
they
do
can
not.
transform
Kick
into
someone.
one. We'll make ourselves more valuable to her, therefore, like, she'll...
I'm trying to
Like,
find.
give us
I'm
more
gonna try.
stuff so we
I'm trying to
don't
find
die.
the patron head priestess for Bast.
Yeah.
You become
The-
Avatar Bast.
The people that he contacted in Moja seem to have a little bit more information regarding that. However, they seem pretty laid back. But frankly, all the Bastite worshippers you ever dealt with were kind of like whole grain
Yeah.
hippies. You're like, whatever, man. It's whatever you want to do. It's like protect the cats.
but they're not like the
After that, do some
berserkers
stuff. Take down the deep
Bast.
ones. Or not the deep ones, but the
outer
outer
gods.
gods.
We're more
in a
Bast
vague kind of
warriors
sense, like the
instead of
man.
Bast worshippers.
of- Yeah.
I need a little more intensity on that third one.
Yeah.
I'm here to bring that intensity.
Where's my...
Yeah, there's not a lot of that intensity.
Oh,
I'll put
actually,
special, like, Asgard Bast staff.
we're actually like warriors of Bubastis. That's
However, from the ancient texts, like there used to be some pretty hardcore, Bastites, but
There you
that
go.
really isn't the crowd nowadays.
Yeah.
That is me.
Well, we're more like the warriors of Bubastis
So we'll have to do more research on
or
that.
Bast.
Okay, so coming into the third day,
You and I
Hunter.
have, so I'm not so sure.
Is there a cat spell where we, like, take a vessel of ours and then bury it in the sand like a pool?
So,
and then, like, if we die, then that seed grows and then we'll come back.
so is Artemis recommending that I don't do any more training in the dreams?
No, he says training in the dreams he can protect you inside the dream space. He's very
Right.
good at dreaming. He does it a lot.
Okay.
So that would be a safe location for you to train mystically and not worry about too much of the paradox.
Not too much, though, but just a little bit.
He says he's not Paradox's master.
You guys.
He thinks you should be fine, but
All right.
he's not going to lie to you, maybe.
Maybe.
He doesn't, from the sound of it, he doesn't garner very much paradox at all.
Right.
So he doesn't have a huge understanding of the whole process.
Okay.
So a lot of times when he says, like, the slipstream, he's like, well, you don't slipstream, you just run. You get up to speed, you jump off something. There you go.
Right. So I'll spend my days in the mornings maybe meditating, then we'll go into the city, go hang out at Elvis's place, have some fun, spend some money,
Okay.
meet some chicks.
You're a workaholic.
Me? No.
That would be very anti-Bast.
And then at night.
You're like, you're still freaking working? I'm like, no, you're not working. I'm going to sit on your keyboard and you're not going to get anything done.
And then at night I'll kick it Bast style.
You will notice that, A, the Fair Folk is an interesting location if you have a broad mind, which, depending on your character, I don't know if you do. She's like, I think that guy's a fucking vampire. Fucking vampire.
Probably
There's a lot of
vampires.
strange entities inside of the Fair Folk.
I try to find my
Spiritual
werewolf
creatures, spriggans. There are the werewolf individuals.
Okay with werewolves, huh?
After we got past the
Back in the day, it wasn't.
one. I didn't know what it was. It just got hairy and heavy. And
Some of the face singers
Moth
are
breather.
the most exemplary singers you've ever seen. I mean, they are supernatural in their beauty and their talents. But
awesome.
obviously, something like this can't really exist inside of normal New York. It's just what have you. You will notice that you get in power investiture when you're relaxing, partying, things of that nature.
Okay.
Just it comes. It doesn't seem to. It seems
What's
to happen.
happening, Daddy?
As in, you've noticed that, what is it? For others, it seems like they're stronger when they're fighting outer worldly entities or protecting cats or themselves. But you also have noticed it when you're just partying or relaxing, or you're like, I slept 12 hours today. I feel pretty powerful.
There you go. It's good.
So
to
it
know,
is
but
strange how it
I'm a
does
carouser.
operate.
I carouse.
Artemis would tell you by probably the second day, from his sources, he doesn't know anything. What is it? About this
Smothering the baby.
the smothering the baby. From his understanding, those deities aren't on any particular wanted list, if you will.
Okay.
From what he understands, is they are Terra-based entities or spirits.
Okay.
So they would not,
So you're saying
unless they directly caused harm to someone else. No,
So I can't smother it?
he wouldn't. He would say that's if you're just going to smother some random kid. No,
No,
he
not a random
He doesn't
kid.
jive with that.
I'm not a psychopathic murderer. I'm talking about the reincarnation of a deity, even if it's a Terran deity that could destroy humanity.
A lot of powerful things could destroy humanity. He says pretty sure that humans are going to destroy humanity at some point, building all sorts of
Probably,
weird
that's why I
weapons.
have to-
He says
the
that
ones
they
who
don't
control
have
humanity.
an issue with it, frankly.
Okay. So you don't have an issue. You're impartial to it. So whether I do it or not, you're impartial.
Well,
So that's what I'm hearing.
how he would say is no. He wouldn't generally do that. He would probably stop you from doing something like that. But you're your own man. You can worship whoever you want. He's just saying that he can't apprentice out to you if you're just going to be going around smothering random babies. He doesn't
I
care.
didn't say anything about smothering random babies. Why do you jump to that leap? It's
Because
very
they
specific
don't
instances.
differentiate. If it's not an outside entity from another world, then it's all Terran. They're fine with that.
Everything Terran then?
So rethink
They don't
it.
necessarily have an issue with deep ones or serpents.
So can I smother deep one babies?
How about Genghis Khan? If you went and he was an infant, you knew the future.
He says that you'd have to convey this through Hunter.
I'm not even there. I'm just trying to help Hunter with his arguments.
Exactly.
Hunter isn't too bright. He needs a little...
Exactly. I've only
He
got
said
11 here.
that he doesn't.
Triple
If he
double
hasn't done
abilities.
anything, then they're not going to go all minority report on what he's going to do in the future. Like, yeah, maybe he blows up the what have you, and he says, but you could blow up the what have you.
So what level of evidence is necessary to exercise extreme prejudice on an individual?
They would say they're pretty mellow about it, so seeing it actually happen.
So even having heard about it or having evidence to the effect that the individual occurred,
So you know what happened then?
I know it happened. In the
Yeah, if
past.
he's gonna.
I heard it from somebody, so it's hearsay.
This is no, there's a lot of hearsay. Here's a lot of stuff too.
Yeah.
If you think you can confirm it happening, then maybe.
If you think you can confirm it, then maybe. Jeez, I never have time to think to confirm things.
Now you got a cat that's going to be like that on your shoulder guy.
Hunter, just don't worry about it. When the time comes, you do what's right, and you explain it later.
Yeah, that's
Asking ahead of time is always a horrible idea. Look at
There you go. How's Bast on
again. You're asking.
asking for apologies, forgiveness?
I don't know. He says that she's capricious, so
Okay.
she's pretty fickle. Depends on the scenario.
What the hell are we talking? You drink your cream, I'm drinking the beer.
says, whatever makes you happy.
Kitty cat. We loving kitty cat.
All right.
This is the mellowest I've seen Artemis. He's been pretty much a ball buster in the past, so.
Well, that's because he says that sometimes you're a dick and he doesn't like that Barton guy. He always talks to me like I'm not even here.
I don't like that Barton guy either. Whenever you want to solve that problem, let me know. Because I
Making
got a pillow.
jest at my-
I got a big pillow.
He says he knows that I can understand what he's saying.
I'm totally
And I
there
can
with you.
speak to him in English, but he doesn't talk to me like I'm a real thing.
Yep.
Like, who the fuck does he think he is?
We spend the next 4 hours breaking on Barton.
All right. Otherwise, sometime after that, during the third day, you would be contacted. Are you spending your time primarily at B's facility, at the Chantry? I know you're not in Drum to Drocket anymore.
I would go back to B's facility at night. Well, it depends.
In the past, there was cots put out for you, but now there's actually fully fleshed out housing
Yeah.
that is unclaimed.
If
That you
it's-
guys could claim one of the houses out there. I mean, there's not a lot of they're pretty closely compacted together, but it's fairly comfortable.
So I would head back. Like I said, I was staying at B's place, kind of meditate in the morning, go down to New York for an afternoon and evening of fun.
Okay.
Come back late in the night. So that's kind of my routine for the past 3 days or whatever.
Okay.
Every once in a while, I'll try to check in with one of the mules, see if they got any info on the weapons.
You can give me a carousing roll.
Do you have that skill? Will?
Yeah, I'm a carouser.
You really aren't, but you have the
Yeah.
skill.
An
Actually,
awesome
he's
carouser.
pretty darn good.
He hasn't done too much in the past.
We haven't had a lot of instances other than our very first adventure.
helpful.
Because you're Batman on everything. You break in and you're like, where's the drugs? And then start breaking people's faces.
I got it by 7.
You'd find that apparently...
Where's Commissioner Gordon?
Apparently there'd been another outbreak of the bubonic plague in northwestern North Dakota, along with Montana and some regions of Canada. Supposedly the Army's quarantined off the area, but at the fair folk, they'll tell you that apparently they have come across a larger hive of black spiral dancers. The MI5 or the Bauer has been engaging them in kind of guerrilla tactics, they're using guerrilla tactics against Bauer. They can disappear back into the ether. The werewolf community they have some hit and misses with Bauer just because Bauer kind of sees them as the same type of entity. But they've been trying to figure out some way to help and not get engaged too much
Do you need
in the conflict.
a person that could try to create a peace treaty between the two?
They say that Elvis has contacts within Bauer, but it's still...
Okay.
He says that Bauer considers all extra-dimensional entities, which he says that he was born in probably Ohio, but technically speaking, he's half something else.
Right.
So Bauer doesn't really have a good view of that sort of thing.
Gotcha. I would pass it to you guys next morning then.
The Bureau of Water Reclamation.
Okay.
Otherwise, later that evening, you would be contacted by... There's an extra member of the Quintessence Mule team, if you will. The individual... I showed you a picture a little bit earlier here.
I don't know. Are you a good guy or a bad guy?
It's just a picture I found. I never saw Lost.
You strike me as you've got the heart of a bad guy.
All right. This character... where are we here? Notes. Where are my notes? Oh, here we go. Norton Muse. He will introduce himself. He is from the Chantry. He tells you that he has worked with the professor prior, but he has what he'll say is a request, but in actuality it appears to be a order from the Chantry itself. It seems as though they're requesting 120 milliliters of your blood.
My blood?
He'll tell you that, from what he's heard, unfortunately you're unfit for service at the time period. It sounds as though you've talked to the Chantry about having a paradox buildup. However, he tells you that there is a project in the works creating a hub network of gate systems that are not connected to the chantry. You'll say an emergency subway system, if you will, all throughout the several different continents. They're starting to work into the North American continent, and your blood is being used in a type of blood key, which individuals that have a strong association with spatial magics, he's going to test some of your blood, and he says that officially it is a request, and you can see it's actually signed by the Infini, who would be the tribunal member for spatial magics.
Okay.
You've never seen him in person.
I thought we met him once.
You've met the...
He was angry when we knocked at his door, I thought.
No, you've met
That was a different one? Okay.
the... What is it? You have met... He's on the list on the back.
He looks like John Locke.
Well, we met this one here.
Yep, you have Daros.
Okay. and then
You've come
this
across
guy here?
Daros. You've never met him.
Oh, okay.
You've inquired about spatial magics, and supposedly the tribunal member was one of the only people that was known to know how to create spatial distortions.
Yeah. So you want my blood for a key?
What he'll tell you is each one of the keys will end up being sequenced and creating a large sigil-type teleportation gate that theoretically any human could use to move between the different hub stations, and each one of the hubs connect to each other through various angles, and if one of them goes down, it can be destroyed, and then the rest of them are still active. But the gate system is insular in the fact that you have to have the 7 blood from the individuals that the gates are keyed to get into the network. As in, if this gate B, connects to gate C, these two have 7 chantry members' blood types, and each one of these is required to create a gate that connects to either of these. And then, randomly out of the thousands of people that are in this chantry, everyone has their own particular... each one of these hub systems has a gate that is two-way, that has a 7 blood key sequence. So each one of these can't be connected to from the outside. There's no way of connecting to
Unless
them.
you had the combination.
Unless you had the combination.
Which is the 7 blood types.
Which is the 7 blood types, individuals that are strongly associated with and have an affinity for spatial magics. He'll even tell you that members that have recently passed away, their bloods have been collected in this process, meaning that some of these gates are going to be impossible to repair, but impossible to... He wouldn't say impossible, but very difficult to penetrate.
Right. I'll use my detect lies, body language, etc. Try to see if I can ascertain that. You look at Artemis and see if he thinks this guy's on the level.
Artemis doesn't really know too much about chantry magic.
Not necessarily that he's whatever he's spouting is true, but do you find any falsehood in his request?
He says that Artemis thinks that he has a weight on his shoulders, that he's not trying to show off too much. A lot of stress in his system. He says that's not good for the feng shui. You would say, based on your body language, where's your body language? That's there.
I have a...
You don't think
15.
that he's...
I put an extra point into it.
You don't think he's lying. It does seem as though there is more to the paperwork. You can actually see there's more to the paperwork, but it is asking about you working in a particular location without knowing who you're specifically working with. But obviously, since you have a lot of paradox, he's already written you off as unable to complete.
Combat ineffective.
Effective.
Story of my life, I tell you.
You don't get any strange feelings from him. He sounds like he's being somewhat legitimate.
Right.
You had heard rumors about some sort of gate network being created in the future.
Sorry.
This might be it.
Those pictures only find their way to the net. They can only bring good.
And you had heard that the professor was working for the chantry regarding some sort of site in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
This may or may not be connected. Otherwise, you don't get a bad feeling
All right.
about this individual.
All right. I've spilled blood all over everywhere, so what the hell?
He understands, but the likelihood that they could figure out who's 7 members for any particular gate system, meaning one from Pennsylvania to, say, Florida, that one would be keyed to a specific 7 combination out of thousands of samples that they've collected.
All right. Artemis doesn't think he's a demon or anything, does he?
No, I think he would have
No,
smelled
he's a
that.
smoke
Okay.
ghost.
All right.
Artemis thinks that he has a lot of stress, though.
Okay. What are y'all stressed about?
He says that the chantry probably about a month ago was
Horribly attacked. I know.
horribly attacked. They're still sorting through the wreckage to find the bodies. Their
You
count
gotta
was
learn
that
to
there's
carmentalize.
30% of the missing in action are assumed to be dead.
What the hell?
Carpentalize.
Carmentalize.
Yeah.
That word, the thing, you put it in a box and you lock it away. You don't think about it.
Compartmentalize.
Well, he says that he's still having to deal with the real world
I hear you.
Compartmentalize.
issues that has caused on a day-to-day basis.
I only ask because I've got a fiend that's interested in my being, and so I'm just wondering if you're an agent sent by her for my blood. Although I think it's surely one of my
He
blood.
says
She
that
just
if you would
probably
feel more
chopping it
comfortable,
off.
he could take you back to the Chantry in
I
Massachusetts.
can't enter the
and
chantry. I don't know where the heck I'm going to end up, so sorry.
My spell list.
You
is
just take my
longer
blood.
than
I'm happy to
skill
give it to you.
list.
He'll take it. He says if you want to spend time authenticating this document from the Chantry, you can.
We're cool.
How many skills?
All right. He'll end up taking the blood. He tells you that ultimately the individuals working on this project will receive random samplings, and they'll be doing the work. You're known to be good with symbol magic, but they don't want you risking a relay hub with whatever mess you've got messed up in your system right now. He's going to check the blood.
Do you have...
Luckily, none of the blood seems to be contaminated.
40
that's a
points
good thing to
short.
know. Good thing to know.
What?
40
Do you have
points
any...
short, so I can pull my skills versus my spell.
what is it? Entropic predictions? Can you do that?
He can. Yeah.
Do me a solid and just let me know where I stand.
100
He
six.
says that in a month, you might be able to start active duty once again.
But I need to know about, like, right this minute, because tomorrow I might need to do stuff.
From the looks of it, you got a fair amount of paradox built up into your system. Yeah. It looks like there is some sort of, I don't know, something around you. He can't tell what it is specifically. He's not an expert in this field, but some of it has burnt off.
Okay.
Other amounts are slowly dissipating, but it's difficult to predict what it does.
Are there experts
They only
in the
know that
Chantry?
magic is an accelerant and can cause it to...
Okay. Are there experts, specialists in the Chantry?
He says there are.
Could you put me into contact with one?
Yeah, he'll give you a name and a
Okay.
department.
And do I have to go into the Chantry to see the person, or would they be willing to come to me?
He says you can go to one of the entry points, like the one in Massachusetts.
Okay.
Then talk to them from there and see if they'll come out and meet you.
Okay. I appreciate all your help here. Sorry to give you the third degree. I didn't mean to pick at scabs.
He's completely fine with that.
You know,
He understands that
Just a
the
little
whole
paranoid.
process is a little bit sketchy. Blood is a powerful thing. However, hopefully it'll be used to safeguard a lot of human lives in the future.
yeah, sold me.
He'll
You're not a vampire.
There'll be an official message to some of the individuals in the Chantry in the future regarding this hub system when it's more functional.
Are you going to need more? Because
He says
you could milk me on a cow and set some up in the chiller. And
no. The amount that he's taken from you should be enough to set up at least 6 gates,
okay,
and that is the amount that they don't want to overuse somebody's blood that many times. Too many
Yep.
relays with that same key.
yeah, I understand. All right. So the next day, if I can, I'll go to that Chantry location and see if I can get somebody to walk in there and inquire about that person.
Okay. So we're going into the next day. You can end up doing that. You end up hearing two things. Early in the morning, you'll end up hearing from Omar Bahowden. He'll tell you that he is picking up a slight disturbance in Florida. He said it's pretty minor. It seems like it's going to happen in about 7 days here. Given the time difference, probably about 6 hours. Or not 6 hours, 6 days.
Okay.
It is minor. It's localized to a region. It does look what Walter Riker had described prior as a tunnel. He doesn't know where from or anything else. He just knows that there's a higher peak of cross-bridge particles for that region in space, assuming the planet moves in that
it's another
direction.
front on the war against chaos.
I align my team of friends and let them know that we have an appointment with Destiny in 6 days in Florida. We should get there early so we don't have to wait till the last minute.
It's probably about 40 miles north of Orlando, kind of out in a swampy area.
I've been having fun on my R&R with Artemis. He's telling me how to totally kick back and
You're kicking back?
yeah,
Drinking?
yeah,
Partying?
up partying, meeting chicks.
I noticed you've been getting up like after 10.
Yep.
That's horrible.
I meditate. Sometimes I just sit there for a whole 5 hours and just meditate.
No, I
You've
can
se-
understand
You've seen
meditating
how
for a few
difficult
minutes.
the religious regimen is for Jeb. He's like, we doing something today? Is this Tuesday? Eating a really long sandwich. All
I
right.
never looked at them again either.
Has there
damn good
anything
meditator.
in my occult times books?
You would probably say that there is talk of
Meditation.
various towns, as I said before.
17.
There are strange
4.7.
incidences of people seeing strange things all across the Midwest and kind of Central America.
What's your meditation?
There are talks about undead creatures or whole towns disappearing, including graveyards being completely, the entire graveyard being completely dug up. And the bodies have just gone missing. Authorities aren't responding to any of these claims, or
Where's this
the
at?
government is literally several towns across the Midwest. Some of them are happening in Ohio, North Dakota, Montana, Washington State. Some of these are happening in. And then, was it some things in Illinois and, what is that? Yeah, those in general. And there's talks of people seeing strange entities. Occasionally some things look like Bigfoots or ghouls, even sometimes things that sound like star vampires or Byakhee being seen, which is extremely uncommon. And then they talk about the whole issue of that region in North Dakota being listed as another outbreak of the bubonic plague, and there's various conspiracy theories about that.
Does anyone,
because supposedly another region in Smallwood, New York, had been quarantined for bubonic plague, and it's never been quarantined.
Has anyone followed up on what happened to those Glocky zombies? Where the guy went to?
Your Occult Times primarily deals with the
You asked me
United
about
States.
meditation.
Have,
You asked me
have
about
any of
meditation.
these guys?
What about it?
I don't think so.
Do you have a good meditation?
I don't meditate. I just go to sleep. It's from
Where was
0
the
to
last
100 on that one,
place
man. There's no
that
in between. I go straight into dream.
Where did our research stop
I don't even think
for
I have meditation.
following Gravenhurst?
You followed
it
the
with
location with
Bruce
Zach
here?
Mordew
Zach Mordown.
at the health retreat in Oslo,
okay.
Norway.
No, I don't
Yeah.
have meditation.
He apparently had some notes, but
took
he
it right after
he hadn't
first
contacted
started
Gravenhurst for the last 10 years. The only thing that you have regarding
Was it
Gravenhurst
Some of
is
his
Been
more
casting spells.
notes.
there was signs of
Free
Gravenhurst
your
like
mind.
zombies in
Harness
southern
power.
China.
Before you ride the dragon.
We can't go
Chase
there. How you pay?
I jacked up my symbol drawing though, just in case for other things.
All right.
So,
Otherwise, that's what you find out early in the morning.
I don't hypnotize.
Later on into the evening, this would be the time that you're going to check with the Chantry off in
Okay.
Massachusetts. I'm assuming you just drive
Yeah,
there
I
and have a
just drive
driver.
there. Yeah.
Okay, so you'd end up hearing this first. Ultimately, when there's some, Dr. Mechlot will end up talking to you. Walter Riker, of course, is still working on the gate system. He'll tell you that they've been successfully moving livestock. So he'll tell you the 24 and then the 48 hours so far. They seem to be fairly healthy. Nothing seems to be strange. He says they're going to continue to monitor the situation for the next couple of weeks. And then they're going to be starting to move humans through the human people, excuse me. They're going to start moving human refugees to Nevada, removing them, getting them outside of London. So primarily civilians, people that can't fight in the war, things of that nature. However, they're still continually sending shipments and have been a great relief to the Great Britain area. Otherwise, Dr. Mechlot will talk to you. He says that you have to understand from his society that they're very careful. They're very slow to accept new elements into their society. So he has had quite a bit of good working conditions with you and Walter Riker. He says things that make him a little bit worried about furthering your relationship, so to speak. He will kind of backhandedly refer to rogue elements that you work with, unpredictable personalities, things of that nature. And he seems to be talking to pretty much everyone you hang out with. But he doesn't say that outright. There's a certain amount of trust that in his society they would have to develop before moving into something like this. However, he has a strong trust of Walter Riker and even to yourself.
Yep.
He's willing to send a liaison that will work with you for a certain amount of time, and this experience will dictate how he's going to proceed from here. He says that from what he's seen so far,
It's going to be questionable if I pass.
He doesn't say that
It's a
directly.
fail situation.
He doesn't say that directly, but it seems as though a lot of things might be riding on how you deal with a member of their society here on site, whether or not it's 2 weeks in, you're like, she blew up in an accident, or this dude totally got his head melted off.
Hunter's coming in for spring break.
All right.
He didn't know hazing was going to be part of his reception.
He says things that have limited their contact with your governments, of course, with you as well. They've seen a lot of different factioning amongst your human societies, a continual war. He'll talk about the Middle East and other things of that nature, your great wars. He said the Great War and other things of that nature from what they've so far had pulled from your society. He says that you have to understand that their populations are drastically smaller, but very tight-knit.
Right. I let them know that I understand and that our group, so to speak, has been poached together from across the continents, and unlike a war-footing society, our group is civilian. And so we're still finding our way and trying to streamline the things that we do so that we work more effectively together.
He says that he can't, as of yet, put anyone under, I suppose, your management, but he's willing to have a representative there that will work with you and negotiate for things like trading agreements and other things of that nature. He says that there are resources on your world that they are interested in, including the asteroid belt in your region, but I suppose he'll equate to they're uneasy about giving you modern technology and things of that nature.
So will this person be more of a liaison, an observer, grader?
Yes.
What would you describe to
All of it.
He says that he described, he'll say her as a liaison. She'll be an active observer. She will primarily be at your facility. However, he foresees that you might ask for her to accompany you on your outings, which he is, for the most part, fine, provided she is continually checking in with him on a regular basis.
See what she thinks of the hunter.
You've already got the librarian, don't you?
Heck no, she shot me down.
Serious? When did that happen?
Months ago. You
Yep.
gotta keep up.
Althea Montrose. Yeah.
She wants to, whatever the
professor is selling.
switch hitting.
Yeah. He's like the artist that was formerly known as the formerly known as artist. He,
Now that Frank's back,
Opportunist.
Montia Montrose is on the rebound.
maybe. And there was also some.
Because he can swing from both sides.
There was also some talks of, I think, Don Urquhart. However, it seems like Captain Thomas had. I think you had mentioned in the past. You're like, Mrs. Urquhart wants
I
me
never
to.
wanted any part of that crazy.
Okay. But Captain Thomas has been talking to her fairly frequently, even though there's
That's
a
like
little
a
bit of a
challenge.
strain on their communications nowadays.
Yeah, I do pass things along for her. But I want part of that
Sabotage.
crazy.
At least you know where the in-laws are coming from.
Lisa Martin's not going to do anything to her. She's like a sister, for God's sakes.
All right.
She makes. You haven't actually seen her in some time. They've moved their headquarters. She now works with Nathan Dweller.
Yeah.
You haven't officially done much with Obduro.
Just collect your checks.
You've still been
Let
getting.
Daryl know that
I don't think I've collected a paycheck.
I'm
in
hiring
long
us to
time,
do a
be honest
mission.
with you. I
we're
put
going to
money
Florida.
Yeah.
Let's see what sends across the trench.
Occasionally, Nathan Dweller will ask you for updates, clarifications, things of that nature, but you have been getting paid still,
Yep.
which is strange, but you never understood how the Obduro system even worked to begin with.
I
Because
don't even know our
you don't
funding source yet.
you don't even know, supposedly it was people donated to it, because you never asked for payment when you helped people.
Where did we help people?
Occasionally it happened, like the tailor, things of that nature.
Occasionally
Yep.
help people. You
That
know,
was one case that we always talk about when we get together.
that was a good one. There's no bloodshed, mostly innocent.
Yep.
Do you guys want to go to Florida?
Well, eventually, I want to go meet the paradox expert.
So can
So-
we go to Florida, say, tomorrow evening?
And I'd like to get my magical axes.
So you're going to stay here? Should I start calling you?
Just saying, just in a day.
What's that guy's name that's not here?
Barton?
Barton?
Barton. No, I know
So-
Trevor.
Those are fighting words.
To finish up with Dr. Mechlot, he'll tell you that he'll try to, he can arrange a time that's comfortable for you, the liaison, to start working and operating out of your facility. But technically speaking, she would still be working for him until a certain time that they feel as though they're going to change the nature of your working relationship.
Okay. I'll go through and talk to the heads of my departments, let them know a person's going to be coming in. I'll have a picture of them, I'll have a name of them. But basically, she's to be treated well. And
From your staff, everyone is very, very friendly. They're very open. They definitely don't have the weight of the world on them, like some of the misfits that you have randomly come in. They should, from what you understand with your body language and psychology, they would be a great environment for her. It's just other random individuals that might pop in.
my specialized adventuring.
It's like, we got demons coming on our nose, and like, oh, there's deep ones over here, and like, everyone's gonna die. I slept 3 days solid. Other strange things of that nature might be a little bit weird. However, another thing that I had mentioned briefly, but Mechlot has always had, I suppose, from your perspective, he's always been a little bit dry with you, but comparatively to everyone else, he's practically open-armed, welcoming.
Right.
However, he's slowly gaining a lot of respect and trust with Walter Riker. It seems like they've been working on a lot of projects, and he has given Walter Riker a lot of leeway regarding accessing technology and things of that nature that normally would probably get shut down right away if one of your other researchers had asked.
Okay. I'll get her sleeping accommodations and yeah.
Otherwise, like I said, it's up to you to designate the day that this starts, at which point in time he will have her he'll
Tomorrow morning.
arrange a time, 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. He'll tell her this specific region. He details the whole thing. He tells you that all of their field agents have a certain amount of military training. So obviously things like pointing weapons at them, and there would be a response, which he would prefer if there was nothing that caused issue.
No provocations.
Yeah. Of course, he doesn't want any of your team members to be injured or vice versa.
Mostly your team manager.
I'll let my team members know. Is she? Do you have a picture of her? Is she human? Will she be wearing power armor and carrying weapons readily?
Dr. Mechlot does say that, of course, she's human. From your body language, he seems to be fairly open about that. If anything, they're proud about their
Purity.
pure human, what have you. You don't know if there's any kind of racial thing there. You've only seen Dr. Mechlot. You have no idea. But otherwise,
He looks a bit Turkish, wouldn't you say?
whatever Ray Stevens is.
He looks totally untrustworthy, though.
That's kind of why I went with it. Kind of like, he's got a nice smile, but his eyes don't quite match.
Poor Ray Stevens. he's like one of the few famous people listening to our podcast.
So you can arrange that for 8 a.m. in the morning. He gives you very specific details about where she's going to arrive. The accommodations are generally... he can tell you what kind of accommodations. It's nothing huge, just a solitary area by herself and so on and so forth.
Can I throw
Go ahead.
Can I throw him through the book of Mute to see if there's a symbol for shield?
Oh, he will provide a visual picture.
Yay, visual picture day.
Yeah.
Is that center?
That's not center pole.
We're all gonna question on that. Where'd you get the
I think she
photo
could
from?
use with a little mellowing.
Little hunter goes a long way.
Yup.
Bastard.
Everybody needs
Okay, so coming at the Chantry, probably about mid-morning or midday, coming into the third or fourth day now. I think it's the fourth day. talking to the people at the Chantry, there is a representative that will be willing to talk to you regarding specifically what might be wrong with you. It does take about 2 hours to kind of get scheduled before he can kind of deal with you. Otherwise, I can give you some details about the individual. I'll send it up in an email.
Okay. I appreciate them. I thank them for their time.
Yep, he says that you're a valued member of the Chantry, so especially given that, they've lost so many good people the last few weeks.
Okay. I was kind of viewed as one of the folks who, came along and couldn't tie their own shoes. But
you've been through this Chantry point a lot, so they've obviously know that you work with Michael Larson. He has good views of you.
Okay.
And from what they understand, there's now a donation coming from your team every week that's coming in, and it seems like you're having more notoriety within the Chantry.
Just a little surprised, but okay. That's good to hear.
Checking it out, he will tell you over the course of probably 30 minutes. It seems he uses a variety of strange primal flares, along with a medallion and a crystal viewing glass. He believes that you have unhinged yourself from normal space, meaning it's much more fluid for you to move around, but not in a good sense. There's nothing much holding you down. He would say like a butter in a pan, on a hot pan.
Okay.
If you were to attempt to move yourself, you would have a accelerated or amplified effect of moving. Any kind of spatial magic or anything moving or somehow distorting your presence in three-dimensional space could have a drastic, if not amplified, effect. He will say that you had been, it's starting to alleviate now, but even coming up to the point where you could have created some sort of paradox realm around yourself. There is so much built up entropic energy around your being.
Think about that one guy we faced in the nether realms.
No. Hey, you get to go to your own personal hell. That's not fun. Nobody wants this.
He says it is bleeding off. He can't tell one specifically. You'll become re-anchored. He might suggest that you temporarily have wards placed upon your person to anchor you down. It wouldn't inhibit your ability to teleport if you need to in an emergency, but it'd also provide you a buffer in case you were to walk through the Chantry. There's nothing...
I've already had that problem.
He says any kind of spatial effect, you might be fine, you might do it 10 times, and then the 11th time you end up on some ocean in the Indian Ocean.
Are you familiar with the surf dance of the Bastites?
Not specifically. From what he understands is a lot of the Bastite ritualistic dancing comes from ancient Egypt. There is a foundation in magic, and he believes that while that would have a less likely chance of doing it, it still would be pretty high. He would say close to an 80% chance as opposed to the magic, which would be 100%. And this being relative, he can't predict when it's going to happen. Like he said, he could move through the Chantry 10 times and nothing happens, and then the 11th you're hammered.
So would the process of being anchored increase my paradox?
He says no, somebody else would be doing this to you in one of their specialized training rooms.
Okay.
Then that would inhibit your ability to, what do you say, transpose, apportate, things of that nature. But you'd be much less likely to randomly fly off somewhere.
So can you anchor me this afternoon? Can you pencil me in for that?
He can talk to somebody about that. He can't specifically say that can happen, but he's fairly confident that somebody could accomplish that by the end of the evening.
I'd appreciate that. I got some pressing matters down in Florida. Apparently there's a cross-dimensional bridge that's going to be opening there, a tunnel. We need to close it.
He would warn you about any kind of magic. You would have to be very careful as to not create any kind of paradox, meaning you want to be sticking very closely to your sigils and your practices.
Me, a gun, and an axe. That's what's happening.
He understands, but you can't predict what's going to happen in the field. You may need to teleport, and if you do, he says that you should try your very best to have 2 anchor points, or you and whoever else is going with you could end up in not a place that is survivable.
It'll be a horrible, horrible experience.
We'll drink the bass juice and we'll survive anywhere.
Hey, we're on the sun. Oops,
Yep,
that didn't help.
drink bass juice. I'm happy.
Bass juice didn't help me in the surf of the sun.
Yeah, it does.
Haven't checked.
Exactly.
Nobody's tried that.
Yeah, help in
It did
space.
seem to help in outer space.
Not just help, it made you immune.
Okay.
You guys weren't up there long enough to know whether or not you could breathe the air, so to speak, in space, but you were alive enough where you didn't immediately have nitrogen boiling out of your blood.
I'll thank him for his time. I'll see if I can get someone else to run down to see if they can find out about the enchanted weapons, if we've got research.
He can
on
pass
those
along the
guys.
message as he enters back into the chantry.
Okay.
The best thing he can tell you is just to lay low for a while.
Yeah, I'm just going to wait here and see if they can get me in to
Yep.
do the anchoring.
Probably about 2 hours later, later into the evening, they can get somebody to handle that. Normally they would charge, however, since Michael Larson still has you listed as an outside contractor under the Chantry Medical Care, there's no cost.
I appreciate
They will
that.
anchor you down. There will be a -4 if you attempt to teleport in the future, but they say that you're less likely to randomly just fly off the handle. Well, when it comes to passing through a chantry point.
I appreciate that.
Otherwise, they tell you again the same thing. The best way to deal with paradox is to just let it bleed off naturally. And to do what you've been doing so far is contact people at the chantry entrances. The less opportunities you give the paradox to blow up in your face, the better.
Yep. So is there very many practitioners, and I probably should ask the specialists, where they move the paradox a portion of their body and then detonate it on that portion of the body?
He says that there are ways of detonating it prior, usually in a controlled training room. That's really not what you'd normally do.
Right.
He would equate it to you get bit by an animal with rabies and you cut off your hand so it doesn't infect your body. It's a bit rash. There could be some consequences to that, but that's generally how it's handled. Is before it gets to a level where it's threatening you, it's prematurely detonated.
Okay.
And hopefully an emergency response team can come in and help you with whatever happened.
Okay.
Generally, if you detonate it when it's small, it's, he would say, still potentially lethal, but
Okay. I thank them for their time. Any word on the weapons?
he can contact somebody about that.
Okay.
From, what is it, the shields provide you with the normal defense bonus from shields for physical attacks. Each shield, if you notice, gives you a DB bonus.
Okay.
I think these ones are medium, so they're +2. So they give you a +2 on your parry, your block, and your dodge.
Okay.
Because as you're dodging, it assumes that you put the shield in a good location and kind of
Nice.
blocks it. It is heavy. It has connections to Camelot. They can't confirm anything of that nature, other than it seems to be from that time period. They will say that there are powerful wards placed upon the shields that prevent them from being significantly damaged by fairy magic and demonic magic. Also supernatural effects like certain types of spirits and dragons. The weapons themselves are a form of what they would say is alchemical silver. They're not quite sure of the exact consistency, but it has properties similar to raw iron and silver. So they imagine that the effects on a Fae or a Garu would be pretty severe, even potentially a ghost. Beyond that, the weapons are fairly balanced. Obviously, you might not have a skill in medieval flails, but these weapons are very durable, and it's due to the magic that they haven't completely decayed over hundreds of years. He says, given the right conditions, these things could last another 1,000 years.
Okay. Are they considered fine then? You said they're balanced.
Yep, they're balanced, and I would say that I would say that they're probably about half weight of what's listed in the book, and they are fine quality.
Okay. Anything else then?
From the weapons themselves, he would say that there are.
I mean, do they have their own unique thing? Like, this axe you can throw it and it comes back to your hand, or this one does something else, or
Not from what they can see,
Okay.
no.
Lights things on fire.
so would such things be possible, perhaps? But maybe they're not found out until the weapons are used, or
It's quite possible. They've only spent a few days looking at them.
yeah.
They don't detect any enchantment. They don't think that it would be hidden necessarily, but this is a fairly old form of magic that was used. they imagine that it might be more powerful against older creatures that normal, newer things would not be.
Yep.
I will also give you. I suppose I'll give you an IQ roll on that as well.
How about thaumatology?
It's IQ on this one.
I'm cursed. Cursed by my own stupidity.
Don't forget +5 or +10 if you're.
Yeah, got it. Failed by 5.
Yeah. Doesn't ring any bells.
Does smart memory help them? Mnemonic memory?
I don't have any of those, so no, they don't apply.
I thought you had.
No, only two of you have photographic memory.
I've got a bean threshold.
Yeah.
You can cut all my limbs off and I'll still be alive. That's the things I do.
He has a very high stunning check.
All right.
Exactly. 22 subdue.
So what they'll equate to is these weapons would be easy for anyone trained in the skill to use, and they would affect most supernatural threats as the equivalent weapon would do against a real human.
All right. I get on the phone. B. I give you the download on the weapons, what they can do. Is anybody in the group interested?
I'll use something like that for sure.
What do you want? I'm claiming the 2 hatchets.
Attached sears. I'll take a. Start training with the sword because eventually I'm going to have a light sword.
Long or broad? Do you think you'll need to use
Which one's lighter?
Do you think you'll need to use... Well, they're both halfway, so they're both pretty light.
Okay. Broad then.
Okay. Do you think that using a trio sword versus a force sword that they can possibly equate to the same thing?
I'm going to have them try to make it the same way, you know?
Oh, okay. Well, you're the scientist.
Yeah, I understand.
Does Jeb want any of these weapons?
You sure?
Jeb shuns weapons. Professor?
I still have a
What's
weapon.
left?
There would be 2 long swords, a heavy flail, and a battle axe. And then 3 kite shields.
And better describe what I was saying
How heavy
before.
are the kite shields?
A demon would be normally difficult, say like a Fomori would be very difficult to kill with a sword. However, if a sword cuts, one of these swords cuts a demon, they might die from a hit. The same way a human would.
I don't think I have any skills to actually use them.
You should have listened to the dwarves.
Mrs. Urquhart said that to begin with. She said that you might not have a
I
lot
did
of training in
listen to
that,
the
but she'd
dwarves. I learned
come
history
across
and-
them.
Do you have to have training in the shield then too?
Yeah.
You can get the defense bonus without it, but it's not as good without the shield
What
skill.
if you just strap it to your back, call it good?
It still has to be used
That
on
sounds
a
like
person.
a Jeb thing. Can I wear them like sandwich boards?
Yeah, exactly. I don't really want to carry it. Can I just strap it to your
Can I just be
back?
like a turtle?
Yeah. This will work great. Turtle style. It's a
All right.
great defense.
What are you guys doing for the next day?
I'm going to be there when that woman arrives.
Yep.
I'm going to turn over the Huda, and palm-sized object
Hookah and the palm size object.
that he gave me
Okay.
to my research team and try to get them to.
All right. If you remember, they already took a look at the hookah. Whether or not you told Jeb about it, I don't know.
I mean, if they told me,
They might have, and then you're like, I have other things that I'm
Yeah.
looking at. They believe that the hookah is some sort of communication device. They don't know where. They haven't started plugging it in and going through channels, but they think it communicates. To what or...
oh my god! So it could be like it communicates to an elephant that you're sitting on the back of. In theory,
They don't know where it communicates to.
okay.
Other than it appears to be Yith, and it's some sort of communicator.
Yith are the snake men, right?
No, you have to the guys with the
Yith are the strange conical creatures with the advanced technology.
Transfer
body
to
snatchers.
Yeah.
They're still looking into the hand-sized object. They're not quite sure.
Okay.
Could I still try to?
Actually, they would say the hand-sized object does not appear to be Yith. That's all they know so far.
I'll let you
We
know.
came across more than one of
You
them.
want the Huda back? The
I
Huda?
don't know shit about that. I gave it to you because you figured out what to do with it before I did.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to see if there's a Mu symbol for shield.
You give me a research.
By 12.
A 12? You can find one for protect.
That's what I was looking for. All right, protect.
And this, you're aware of its existence. You know how to find it in the book. You don't actually have a point in it or anything else of that nature.
I'm writing down stuff so I can see if I can find it. Protect, I can find now. That's what I was looking for.
Yep. The book, part of what the research is for is you're not necessarily quite sure what exists in the book and what you might be looking for.
Yep.
But once you realize what you're looking for, you can immediately reference it at any point in time by looking at the book.
All I'm trying to do is I'm trying
I'll
to find
also
words
say-
to help me make sentences so I can...
If you're trying to use, if you try to use symbol drawing, the book will give you a +3 reference.
Okay. And then also I would like to see if I can find the symbol for spirit.
Spirit. Okay, you can give me a roll on that.
5, 9. By 8.
You can find spirit.
And then I'm going to retry to find evil.
Okay, this would be coming into the next day.
Yep. I'm fucking don't like it. B8, 9. By 9.
Okay. You find a term called grandma.
Grandma.
As in more of a mouth rather than ma.
Okay.
You're not sure if that's what you're looking for.
Okay. So. Question mark.
MEW.
Yeah, I got it.
I mean, you come across multiple things that are like sound evil, unclean, corrupt, but you're not sure if you're hitting on the exact meaning that you're looking for.
Okay. Well, that also probably. Then they probably wouldn't have the word demon in there, would there?
Or you're not sure.
Okay. I'll look that up when we have more time.
However, this would coming into the next day. Anyone else? Was it you two for?
After I'm done with the chantry, basically I'll head back. I'll try to practice more in the dreams if I can bump my...
That night? Yep.
That night, if I can bump surf dance, I will. But otherwise, are we heading down to Florida the next day?
We go that evening or whatever. Any method that you guys want to use to get there?
Prefer to do something mundane means.
Mundane, take the train.
Take the train or something, yeah. I mean, I've been anchored, but...
If you take the train, you might not be able to get back by 8 tomorrow.
Well, we're not going to leave until after we meet this lady anyway.
Okay, so not in that evening. It'll be the next evening.
Oh, you've got someone new showing up?
Yeah, I tell you. Give you a vague description of young lady.
Is there any kind of like
Coming from the
helmet
other
or
side,
spell that the
Dr. McLeod.
chantry can do where it like
Here,
deflects any harm from
Potentialize
the
and
my head?
morbid observer.
Well, theoretically, you could create a deflect harm,
But like permanently?
Well, I'm confident we'll make a good
You'd
impression
have a
on her.
running.
potentially having an
Are you
object.
gonna
Actually,
do-
I do tell you.
Are you going to do some research
A ring
on
of
the
protection
stuff
of
going
some
on down
sort.
in Florida? So we're not completely unprepared when
Ring
we
of
go down there.
protection? How much would they cost from chantry?
You can give me
Dr. McLeod
a
is very
merchant
concerned
roll.
about my friends
I don't have
and
merchant.
the appearance they're going to get.
Give me a perception roll.
I don't have a good feeling about Bart.
Or research.
To be honest with you.
Research.
Okay, I agree with this, Dr. McLeod.
How long will it take to learn the protect spell?
Normally, you'd say that learning each one of these
I'm
symbols
just
is
trying to
close to
give you a
about
head
2 weeks without a teacher. In dream time, you can cut it down
Be
to
a
about 4
little more,
days.
my
And that's
P's
provided you have
confused.
I rolled
Scarlet
bad.
with you.
Contemplate
Real
wearing the
bad.
I do kind of look behind myself.
You put out some
That
feelers
was my
within the
P's and Q's.
chantry.
contemplate wearing
You're not
the
sure the exact price,
Dexter's
but somebody will get
technique
back
if
to you in a
wanna
few
have any-
days.
oh,
In a few
don't
days.
dress like a circus freak.
I don't dress like a circus freak.
Great.
I always wear suits.
Map cases and long trench coats.
All right.
Blade.
All right.
Did I learn the mu symbol for human yet?
No, I don't think you put one into that.
Okay. Those are I was amplifying human. That the ones I was.
Yep, you'd research those, but the ones that you used during your week were,
Okay.
what the hell is it?
I learned counter rote and negate.
Counter, rote, and negate.
Okay.
Why aren't you talking to other people about this? You're just no one's talking to me.
Because some people
Are you
won't take
including
any
Artemis
advice.
in this as well?
Artemis? Who's Artemis?
You'll see his cat. He'll look down.
God!
He's like, I told you earlier, I'm Artemis. of the cats.
Out of touch.
I apologize, Artemis.
I'm right here. I had to stand up on something. Wait a minute. I'm going to get over on this stool. Now I'm at eye level. Now you have to engage me like a real thing.
You gotta soul gaze the cat.
Unbelievable, yeah.
You have my deepest...
And I'm the one you're worried about. I turn around and walk away.
Nobody else is fixable, Hunter.
You know what your problem
They're all
is?
lost causes. I have
You've got
lots
too
of
much
problems.
work on your plate. You need to take it easy.
No,
Relax.
he shows up and he dishes off what he should be doing on me. So I'm going to be doing the research on this Florida place. I know nothing about dimensional tunnels, but
How is B talking?
Why don't you just
to
take a
the cat?
weekend, go to Florida, see what
Artemis
happens.
Artemis speaks English. Didn't you know that?
Yeah, he just talks.
Artemis does speak English.
Puddin probably could.
No.
And this whole time,
I've said multiple times, your cats seem to understand English. They've just never said anything. So obviously, when you're like, "Hey, Puddin, should we do this?"
made me learn
They understand what
Puddin.
you're saying, so they must know the language.
Only keywords like
Did you ask Puddin if she
treats.
could speak English?
No,
Maybe you should have started there.
no. Yes.
I'll start doing some research on Florida, this area. See if there's anything interesting about it. I stay up late until
Give me a
night.
research roll.
You've got to be in the 20, right?
I roll a 10, which becomes a 9. My research is...
If I research, you're going into probably New York City or nearby to the library, looking through materials there, or to the chantry. You can decide which one you want to go to. There might be different bonuses for each.
Chantry.
Okay? Takes you longer into the evening. You'll end up...
Do you want one of the weapons?
No, I
Made it
can't
by
use
8.
them.
Okay.
You can train up, though.
Becomes a 9.
Huh?
You can train up.
Another
Train.
17.
Yeah.
So you two could have gone to the chantry at the same time, because you would have been... You would have
I'll
got
train
your
up, yeah.
messages early in the morning, and then...
Teach
So what was your research by?
I rolled a 10, becomes a 9. I have a 17.
I was
did
trained
by
by a
8.
dwarven
By 8?
warrior. Hook and shield.
The only thing in the region that's unusual
master.
is apparently there was some sort of standing stones in the region, similar to, you'd say,
Who's your guy?
kind of like small Easter
I was trained
Island
by the
statues
dwarves.
found in the
Oh, you're gonna
swamps.
train
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Anthropologists went
How to
out
use
there from
maps.
various
I don't claim to be his
universities.
level
They
master,
checked it
but-
out. They'd marked the region.
Is it Dex
Nothing else is unusual found
Yeah.
about it. The chantry doesn't have any unusual activities there for some time, but they pre-exist
What does,
the
like,
Vikings coming to that region, or
X
anyone from the
defaults
Easter... Was it?
Off of,
Not Easter
like,
Islands,
if
but
I know X, what
anyone
else
that probably
can
would have
I
had...
use?
It's axe mace is the skill.
They're not sure if it was Aztec,
And so basically, you
or,
just pick
um,
up almost anything.
Indian,
You pick up, like,
Native
table
Indians
leg,
in the region that had done
like
it.
a mace or a beer bottle would be a mace.
Is there any pictures from any of the expeditions
It's very
or
versatile.
descriptions of what these statues look like?
Some of them seem to depict
For a
a
broadsword?
similar type of standing stone
for
to
axe mace.
those at
Yeah, I got
Stonehenge,
dagger, that's it.
like a crude formation.
But
Most
also
of them
have
were
a
buried
magi
deep
dagger.
under kind of
Yeah.
swamp, so they never fully like unearthed everything out there without destroying the site.
Okay.
They appear to be relatively smoothed out stones in a ring formation.
I will call a PI in the largest city near where this formation is, and I will pay him a sizable amount to find out if there's been any disappearances, anything unusual activity in that swamp, any expeditions that have gone out there lately, any kind of unusual business activity, like somebody's built a road out into it or anything like that.
Okay.
And
He'll tell you that
basically,
he'll
I'll
have...
do all kinds of legwork. It's going to be done all night tonight. I'll be there sometime tomorrow to pay you and gather this information out.
Okay. He says that this retainer, of course, the expenditures of the fee, like the things that him getting coffee and yada, yada, yada. Nothing unheard of, but obviously he's telling you all of his upfront
Yep.
costs that he might run into.
Yep.
He can look into the area. He says that he will need a little bit of time just to run a background check on you, call some people, just to make sure that he's
I'm
not...
legit, and you're not wasting time and money.
Yeah, but he'll get back to you soon.
All right.
He's not terribly familiar with Riker Labs, but
Yep.
he calls back in probably about 30 minutes. He'll tell you that he's getting things ready. He'll be heading out to that region. He says it's apparently had found someone willing to give him information about it, so the background check went back pretty quickly from his calls.
Yeah.
He says from the looks of it, the land out there is pretty bad. He's going to have to get a boat out there.
I tell him I don't need you to actually go there. I'll be doing that myself. What I need is the background research so I don't have to walk around your city and talk to the locals to find out if anybody's built a road out there or anything like that.
Okay.
So I don't need you to go into the swamp.
He'll make some runs to City Hall, some of the locals, so on and so forth.
Okay.
Do our dirty work, so we don't have to do
Too bad
it.
Frank's not here.
Flunkies.
We're going to the swamp.
Oh, it's very near his home. It's within a couple of states, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe he did come out of Florida. I don't know.
No, it came out of Louisiana.
I was gonna
Yeah, I
say,
think it was Florida.
Louisiana.
Okay. Otherwise, he says he'll get into contact with you, probably sometime in the morning, probably around 6 a.m.
Okay.
All right. Around that time period, in the morning, some of you guys head back to B's. You sleep there. You're doing your research and then various other projects. Around 6, you'll end up calling back a little bit after 6. He'll tell you that he's found some things. For the most part, people saw strange lights out there. Nothing huge. Nobody's gone missing and anything else of note. There is no road built out there. There's been some talks probably about 5 years ago about building a road, but the logistics of just kind of dealing with that swampy terrain, they're not quite sure what to deal with it. Apparently, the only interesting thing is they saw like a white alligator out in that region, or a crocodile. I'm not sure what it might be in Florida.
Okay.
I think they're crocodiles, aren't they?
That's about it. He says that a lot of information apparently is stored up at Arkham University regarding their anthropological digs. He knows a little bit about the individuals. He'll give you the professor name. What the hell is it? A Kyle Marks.
I'll make a phone call to Kyle Marks.
6 a.m. in the morning. They'll tell you that he's going to be in around 8.
You have his home phone number?
They do, but they can't release that information.
Yeah. I lean on him. I'm
Okay,
like,
you can give me
this is a
You can give me a diplomacy or an intimidate.
Don't make me come down there.
nice diplomacy. I like diplomacy better. Intimidates your thing. 10. I did by 5.
By 5. They seem like they're almost about to give you the number, but they say that they'll call them and then refer you over.
All right.
So after probably about 20 minutes, you hear a groggy individual. Hello, this is Beatrice Riker.
Yes, Beatrice Riker, Obduro Group, some other agencies.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to be taking an expedition to the swamp, or apparently you've done some research. And
the swamp,
Florida,
40
miles north of Orlando.
Oh yeah, the strange standing stones.
You never did
I had done some
anthropologically.
We'd done some original work out there. The terrain made it difficult to analyze the structures without tearing up the swamp around it, and we didn't want to disturb it. It changed a lot of similar characteristics to the Stonehenge standing stones, but obviously the Celts weren't in this region at that time. It must have been Native American, potentially what do you say, Mayans or Aztecs up from the south, but there's no evidence that they made it this far up.
You didn't find any pottery or anything to try to pin it on any type of civilization then?
They hadn't done a full dig. He wasn't able to get any grant money to continue to look at it. He'd been looking at that as a future project. He hadn't found any significant evidence of any culture around the stones, other than the stones themselves are obviously worked in from some time period around the same time period that Stonehenge might have been assembled.
Were they roughly rectangular like at Stonehenge, or did they have?
He says yes, but on a much smaller scale. He says in total, the diameter of the ring was probably a little bit more than 15 feet.
Oh. I asked him if he can give me latitude, longitude for where it is in the swamp.
Yep, he takes probably about 15 minutes. He says he has to go to his study.
Okay.
He comes back after a bit. You can hear some paper crinkling. He tells you that it starts around this region, and he also tells you about 5 other sites they were looking at, but they weren't able to find. He took like a random sampling of the acreage around there, but he wasn't able to find any other significant cultural objects.
Okay.
He says most of it is underneath the swamp. You only can see a prominent one of the standing stones, which, if you weren't well versed, you wouldn't notice it differently from just a rock in the region.
Okay. I thank him for his time. I let him know I'll bequest to be coming to help him with his research.
Yeah, he says that if you plan on doing any kind of significant research out there, he would love to talk to you about setting up a co-op.
I tell him my interest will be acute and temporary.
All right.
I'll try not to damage anything at the site.
He says you'll share any interesting information you come across then while out there?
I ask him if he has access to the private libraries at Arkham University.
He says for the most part he's not a tenured member of staff, but he has some connections.
You've heard of some of the more unusual expeditions that have gone out and have seen some odd things?
He seems to perk up a little bit. He's like, yeah, I have heard of some things like that.
I tell him that we have a significant event that will be occurring in the next week. I plan to be there to observe it.
Like a astrological event, or?
I tell him it's cross-dimensional particle physical event, so it's something beyond astrological. Although if you know of any astrological events that would be occurring with that as their center, I'd certainly be interested in hearing about it.
He says he doesn't know too much about cross bridge. Is this some sort of radiation, or?
It's a proprietary... have you ever heard of Dr. Omar Behoutin? I think I got it right. Have you ever heard of the...
Oh, yeah, isn't he on the advisory staff of the Numismatic Society?
Yes.
I vaguely heard of him. I'm not sure what he's working on. He's a mathematician.
I tell him that it's a field that he specializes in, and it's pointed to that spot. So I plan to be there to observe the events and see what happens.
He might be able to get he says he can take tomorrow off. He can get down there. Of course, he doesn't know too much about this cross-bridge particle event, but I mean, he'd be interested, given that he's done some research.
I thank him for his offer. He would be good anthropologically. He might
Bring him down then.
Yeah, we could always use some fodder.
I can always add
Don't
one
we
more
have
memory to my dreams of
anthropology?
holding
Yeah, we
someone
do.
else's, holding someone
But in
else's
fairness,
legs.
he had researched this site before, so he might have a leg up on you.
Yeah.
But then again, he might be
He might be missing his legs when we're done.
He might be bringing him into a whole world of hurt. You don't know what's going to happen here.
Have you ever encountered Blue Hades?
Is
Things
that,
of an extraordinary nature.
Please.
well, he's come across some unusual things. Blue Hades, is it a type of Amazon flower?
I tell him I'll give him a
gonna
full
die.
report when I get back. I strongly recommend that he stays in Arkham.
Is it dangerous?
Yes, it will be dangerous.
Oh,
I'll be bringing
okay,
a
well,
security team
I'll
with
be
me.
waiting for your report then. I wish you luck with whatever you're trying to find out
That
there.
port will never go across the day.
I asked him for his home phone number in case you need to call him in the middle of the night with some questions.
Sure, he'll give you an extension.
Thank
Why
you.
don't you bring him
My driver died, that's why.
That's how people gain experience. Your driver gained lots of experience. None of it relevant to saving his life.
Our driver,
He
Daniel,
spent it on cruising, driving,
Connecticut.
finance.
You get to tell people at the bar, like, what are you doing? He's like, I get paid an exorbitant amount of money to
Sit here,
just
watch
sit here,
that car.
watch a car, drive this woman around.
Exactly.
You're like, you're a chauffeur? And you're like, yeah, but I'm a really high-paid chauffeur.
I work 4 days a year.
Yeah,
It could be more, though.
could be more, but I get paid a retainer regardless of me going out or not.
Yeah.
Just sit by the phone or read some books.
I think his death has more to do with the fact who we put in the car with him.
I think you're probably right.
You can't imagine who had it out for B's driver.
The demon. It had to kill the driver first to get to the person behind him.
All right.
All right, otherwise, a few hours pass, you guys start to wake up. The researchers are always here kind of bright and early. There's a very positive, despite some of the grim things that the PCs have seen, it's all kind of sunny day dreams for the researchers here. They enjoy the working environment, and they get up in the morning, have their cup of coffee, like, we're going to invent today. Science! So they're up and early. They're very cheery, regardless of your guys' situation. They're up prior to the rest of the PCs. You guys kind of slowly come together. There's been a warehouse section of your lab has kind of slowly become a cafeteria of sorts where people kind of congregate and talk about their work and other things of that nature. So wasn't specifically a facility like that, but in the future they're talking about using another building as kind of a main cafeteria and so on and so forth. It's just kind of
have real
happening
chefs here too.
Organically. For the researchers, they're like, that sounds pretty ideal. Real chefs on staff.
Oh, science! Where do you get the food from? Oh, it's from like room 14. Ooh. The algae room? Oh, man.
Otherwise, at about 8 p.m., you've been told that an individual, or not 8 p.m., 8 a.m., there's an individual that's supposed to be arriving via relay. Jason Eichhold has been made aware of the situation. He's monitoring the situation on the relay. The relay is always kind of stable. There is he would note that when this starts to arrive, there's a rev-up period, but he gets a feeling that the 30% buffer, this is all for kind of show, like they're sending someone in. Look, it's raising up a little bit, but he doesn't think that they've been able to ship things before without budging this number. It just sits at a high level where you can't tell if anything's happening or not. So he'll make you aware of that, but he's not necessarily super skeptical about them.
Yeah.
He says that there's weird things that they do. Otherwise, around that time period, an individual in what appears to be black armor arrives. Lost my power cable again.
Very
Chris
nice.
can get that.
You're worried about us sticking out?
I do chuckle.
That's what I say to you. Huh, I went and got a shave this morning.
The person, they appear to be around 5'11", but given the armor that they're wearing, they might be around 5'9". Just because buffer on the boot and buffer on the top of the head. The individual waits out there pointed directly towards the facility.
I walked out and meet him.
Okay. The individual has what appears to be 2 swords on their back, 2 pistols, some sort of strange, almost rifle-like device, and then various bits and bobs on apparently web gear. You'd imagine that the pistols obviously look like types of weaponry, so on and so forth. The material on the outside does have a sheen that is similar. You can give me a metallurgy that's perception-based.
Visual perception.
I only have 14. So I
The
did
other
that by
one's
5.
a microphone.
Is that your perception-based metallurgy?
Yeah. My perception and IQ are the same.
There's a fine...
You don't know that, but I do.
I don't check the numbers all the time.
Nope, that's okay.
The outside appears to have a fine layer, at least you'd assume a fine layer of Atom 4. You had talked about doing something like this, like creating, since Atom 4 doesn't like to be disrupted, it doesn't like breaking.
Yeah.
It's damn near indestructible when it's very thick, but you can't imagine that somebody could physically hold on to a suit full of Atom 4. It'd just be like lead. Lead's pretty light, relatively speaking. So they must have a very fine layer on the outside, and whatever the hell the suit's made out of must be lighter than that. But
Right.
it seems to be some sort of combat armor. At least it's much more elaborate than what you would want to expect from like a standard vac suit. Even though that's what Dr. Mecklot had said is individuals wearing exofield protective equipment have gone outside. But from the looks of it, this is not what one would expect from your average. Like, oh, I go and what is it? This is the suit I wear to go check out the lava field. Like, no, I'm pretty sure these are weapons and what have you. She seems fairly prompt. She tells you that her identifier, while she'll be working here, is D7. She says that your name is Beatrice Riker.
Yes.
She says that...
you can call me B, I tell her.
She says, all right, B. She does seem to be a little bit prompt. Otherwise, she says that she'll be working with you and hopefully... she said,
Is your environment sealed in there, or do you ever plan to open it up and expose yourself to our air?
she says right now it's sealed environment. There's certain protocols that she has to go through, but
Alright.
she imagined that you'll be providing a place for her to stay, food for her to
Yeah.
subsist on.
All right. Yeah, absolutely.
She says then that she
Will
would
you
at some point
require
in the
like a
future.
certain paste with a certain kind of hookup?
She says
to it,
no.
too?
From what they understand of their food, it should be sufficient.
Okay.
Lips and assholes.
Get me some of your big old big feet.
All right. I start showing her around the facility. I introduce her to any of my friends that happen to be here.
All
See
right.
me grabbing my PJs, my suitcase. I'm like, we're out of here.
I let her know that we're planning to take a trip to Florida. She's welcome to stay at the facility if she wishes, or she can see how my finely honed team operates in the field. It'll be up to her.
She says if you require her to go to Florida, she'll go to Florida. If not, she'll stay at the facility. She doesn't have strong... I suppose she doesn't care one way or the other.
All right.
Why don't you ask her what's necessary for your time with her to see that her necessary requirements for this trip are met?
I repeat that.
Okay.
I didn't think of it. I repeat it.
She says there isn't any hard set of factors. She's going to be evaluating a whole broad set of events.
All right.
As I'm grabbing
I
my
think the
suitcase-
best way for us to get to know each other is to go in the field and do some things together. You seem to be fairly competent. You've come with armor and swords. I've been planning to learn how to use a sword. Perhaps you can even teach me how to use a broadsword slightly.
She said that if you have a broadsword, she can train you how to use it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Now,
I'll
you
go
see
back.
that she has two.
Yep.
However, she said if you have one, she'll
Yep.
show you how to use that one.
I do take her on the tour around the facility.
So what's your method of greeting strangers in your world?
How?
She says normally you'd go through a portfolio, meet the individual before you actually meet them.
Oh, okay.
She said, however, it is a bit archaic, but you could show her your open palm, indicating that you have nothing up your sleeve or anything of that nature, and then she'll grab your forearm. She does. You're not sure if it's power armor. She does seem fairly a fairly strong grip. You're pretty sure she's carrying at least probably about 80 pounds worth of stuff on her person, but that's not out of human norm for a girl, obviously. It's just she's probably a lot stronger than the researchers here.
So have you read the... Is there a good thing in our dossiers that you have?
Are we driving?
Have you read on each of us? Or?
She said
Think
that
we're
she has
taking-
gone through the files that they have on each one of you.
Right.
Okay.
She doesn't know the
Private-
exact specifications of
Always
what has
private
happened to you
data.
in the field,
How long
but
or how
she
fast?
says that
How fast?
there is information that has been
Are we
collected
in
by the
this
drone
area?
just as you've been working around it.
Okay. So it takes like little samples.
From New York to Florida?
She says it
be
observes
way better
a
than
lot
that.
of things. It just
It would
happens that you
fly
work
faster.
around it and they observe them.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know if there's a... Yeah, they might be.
However, you can give me a body language on that.
But
There'd be planes because after World War I, they got very popular.
still it'll take some time.
Things.
It'll probably be better to take the train, to be honest with you. And then you could know
By 8?
D7.
It seems as though you can't see her eyes, but it seems as though she always has a very good view of everything that's happening in the room.
Yeah.
She's fairly prompt, and I tend to stutter a little bit, but she does not whatsoever. You get a very bland response from her when she says, like, obviously you were near the probe, so it picked up any information. But you kind of get a feeling that all of this is just, how would I put it?
A script?
Not a script, just a very bland, possibly rehearsed answer.
Okay.
Otherwise, she doesn't seem to be at all what seems to be nervous or intimidated in this
Right.
particular situation.
She's
but-
oatmeal there, Hunter. She's oatmeal.
Will you be taking off your power armor?
She
Any
said that she's
chance?
going into the field, and protocol would dictate that she would not.
I got a hammer this
She would not? Okay. And how do you intend to pull that one off, B? I think there's only a few screaming people that'll be running around in the streets.
Well, when you interact with the public, do you normally wear your power armor?
She says a large human public.
Civilian, yeah.
Culturally, they haven't interacted with Earth for the last 200 years. They engage in small. What is it? They
Is it 200
interact
or
with.
2,000?
Huh?
Is it 200 or
So
2,000?
we're going to have socially awkward oatmeal.
Did I say
working
2,000?
with
You
us.
said 200 just now, but...
They left around the Renaissance period,
Oh, okay.
so 300 or so. Excuse
Okay.
me.
Yeah.
They say that they don't have such cultural niceties anymore. The groups that they interact with you are usually alien entities, and they would always encounter them fully prepared for anything that might happen. She says if this is awkward in any way, she can make her presence scarce.
I'm just going to say, maybe she shouldn't go.
I don't understand, though. B's gotten a... This is the exam board. Go out to see B.
Yeah, but if that exam board kind of hinders whatever
I will
progress
say-
that we do,
I will say this because you have edict memory, and you talked to Captain Thomas Winfield a lot. He said even in that theoretically alternate Earth, everyone was kind of creeped out by the Dusk people because they didn't seem to they always seem to act strangely around every other kind of like MI5 and Bauer, and they always seem to be kind of weird, kind of out there. So if anything, this seems to correlate with the people that he knew as Dusk in that alternate reality.
Right. They're kind of creepy.
Yep, we're going to the south.
Y'all come back, you hear?
Well, somebody's gonna come back.
Well, it was nice to meet you. Perhaps we can spar sometime. Training, you do certainly you do that, correct?
She says that field operatives, she'll get a little bit sassy. It's the first time you've heard her say that, but she says that field operatives all have to pass very rigorous physical requirements and physical testing.
I'm sure you do.
You're not sure if there was a little bit of snark towards your group or not, but it was very, very subtle.
Yep, I'm sure you do.
All right, in order to fit in, you're going to have to take off your power armor because we're going to move through civilian society. Once we get to the other end and once we're approaching the swamp, I invite you to put it back on. Do you have civilian clothes? They'll be able to mesh nicely with our world, or we'll need to...
She would have the equivalent of a onesie.
A onesie.
B, don't you have a closet light fitter?
Does it even have the snaps?
We'll get you some civilian clothing so you can mix in. I'll try to cover for any social niceties that you'll be lacking in our society, and I'll
Or you can just tell her just to be quiet.
And it would probably be best if you're quiet.
She says if you're going to encounter something possibly dangerous, it'd be best if she has her equipment with her. However, if you don't want her to be seen by the local populace, she'll provide you with a small device in which you can communicate to her. And at that point in time, it seems as though some sort of strange field seems to move around her, and you can tell that something's there from a few feet away.
Like a predator thing?
And you can tell something's there from a few feet away, but if you're driving a car, there's no way you'd notice.
She's your pet project.
Yep, I'll bring her with.
I'll go wait in the car.
Car,
All right,
train.
I'll have it
plane.
warmed up. I'm driving.
Are you really going to drive to Florida, or can we take a train?
We're going to take the train, but we have to drive
We gotta
the
drive
train.
the train,
Unless you got a
right?
train that starts from your shop that we don't
Yeah.
know
Come
about.
on, B.
The underground train road.
And we
I do bring her through the facility, and I do have a couple of my people with to,
You can give me a psychology that's perception-based.
Yep, there you go. Psychology, perception-based.
I do mention to you when we're out in the car, Jeb, that she's got files on all of us.
Yeah.
That
Good if I know,
drone's doing stuff.
When you're walking around the facility and you say there's a door over here and other things of that nature, she doesn't seem to get lost at any point in time in this place.
All right. You've already seen the place. I say halfway through the tour. Is there anything you want
She
to see
doesn't-
again?
She says that wherever you want to take her is fine.
All right.
However, she doesn't say anything when you say that she's already seen the
I take
facility.
her to the car.
All right?
This is the car. It'll take us to the train. The train will take us to Florida.
She understands.
So what concepts of magic do you understand?
She is trained in thaumatology. Her actual real practices with magic are somewhat limited. She knows pentagrams, elder signs, transposed sigils, things of that nature. But she would say that primarily they don't use your standard form of magics.
Okay. Much more regimented, I imagine.
She would say that they have their own practices, forms of what one might see as supernatural arts, and they also have a heavy use of technology.
Okay. She's wound tight. We need to take her to Elvis. I would pay to see that conversation, I think.
I don't know. Nobody can punch Elvis. Bring the werewolf brothers in here.
I drive us to the station.
We take a train to Florida.
Okay.
Private train if we can. It doesn't need to be a private train. We probably don't own a train, but if we do, I'll make sure we got it.
All right.
About how many days?
Oh, to reach Florida? What is it? You could get, I would say to reach Florida, if you're taking
Can we
a
get a nonstop?
vehicle, you could get a train relatively nonstop. I would say in probably about 16 hours, you guys could get there. So you'd be arriving really late this evening, or excuse me, not late this evening, pretty much midnight.
Yeah.
You'd be getting there.
Perfect
Okay.
time to go to the swamp.
During that time,
During the trip, so what's the layout inside the car? Obviously, she's not cloaked in the car.
we get private compartments or even a private car.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the layout? We sit at a
I think
table
they can
and
have
try to
two
talk to
benches.
her. Yeah,
you know.
facing each other.
They might have a fold-out table.
And
but
sometimes above the benches they have beds that fold up
Right.
into the wall.
right. That would be what the car would look like.
Okay. So, well, initially, what was it? Talking about the vehicle that you guys were driving to the train station.
I bought. You see, I'm sitting out in one of your researchers' cars.
We don't even have like one of our
I know it's
handsome cab type cars.
It's Ed's. I borrowed.
All right.
It's a junior assistant. He doesn't mind as long as I bring it back at the evenings.
A lot of those people now live on site, so they don't go to. They could get a carpool. And they're pretty easy-going. They're probably like, your car
All right,
anyway.
we
Yeah,
take
sure.
Ed's car.
Okay. Probably about 15 minutes into the trip, D will end up telling you that you're going faster than the inertial compass dictates. Are you aware of that?
Inertial compass dictates.
She says you're going faster than you should be, nor using mundane physics.
I kind of chuckle. Yes, we don't travel through your reality. I'm sorry.
Travel through my
Does that bother you?
She said no, she was making you aware of it.
All right.
No, I was well aware of it. I've been aware of it for a long time.
It's going to take 31 hours.
Are you going to try to drive the train?
3 hours?
You're going to try to drive the train?
32 hours.
If I
'cause
pay the guy enough,
average
I might
rail
be
is
able to-
about 35
That'd
miles
be
an hour.
awesome if I could drive
from
the train and
Miami
get there
to-
faster on the same tracks.
Excuse me.
Well, no, I knew it was a longer distance than it was.
Riddle me that, D7.
So that distance, the 16 hours, is if you were driving there. If you guys are taking the train, it'd be the 33 hours.
Oh, it'll be
so
longer.
Yeah.
You'd be there.
Serious?
35 miles an hour is average.
Mind you, the event was
Really?
supposed to take place like on the next
If
Wednesday.
you guys want to drive,
So-
I can drive in the car.
No,
Oh,
'cause
it's
that
like
means
6
we can party on the train because they have a food car and a luxury car. So
We can party in the back seat.
We'll party on the train. You'll party on the train. I've got work to do.
maybe this will
Alright.
loosen up D7.
There you go. I don't think so.
I hear a challenge.
She doesn't respond to any of these.
These are black marks for B. We should try to keep it clean.
You
above
guys
the
are
board.
helping all the time.
I know, we're always helpers.
There's only one black mark that I don't like.
Don't you need a black Frank?
It's still a mark.
All right.
His whole body's covered in it.
All right.
I guess we got on the train.
Okay. Like I said, 33 hours. You guys are going to spend about the majority of that time on the train system. However, about the same time that occasionally, what is it? You guys get into your car. She seems to stay inside the car. She watches heavily the door. She even seems to move out of the way if somebody kind of comes in. Those of you staying inside the car, she seems to have an unusual ability to get in a position where somebody from the door can't see her. Surprisingly, even in all that shit she's wearing. So occasionally, somebody's coming up to the door. It seems like she knows it, but at the same time as some of you high perception characters, and then she kind of gets in the corner. You just can't see her there from that perspective angle.
I still want to see how the camera works. On
Also, the same time that kind of Hunter stands there to start bitching like, rail lines, you kind of built it east to west and the whole fucking thing's like all messed up. She will tell you that you're going slower than you should.
I told you.
What she'll equate it to is her inertial compass tells you you're going 35 miles per hour, but he says that she tells you that you're not making 35 miles per hour.
Gotcha, because he's slowing us down because he ain't driving.
She doesn't know what the effect is other than it is happening. She's
I'm
getting
going to
real.
bring you up.
All I know is they didn't build the damn train right. And it's pissing me off that people don't listen to me because they don't understand freaking
Maybe you should-
the way the world works.
Maybe you should.
I need another drink. I need to try to mellow out. I need to try to find my inner meow.
So this is going to be an issue all the time when you're not driving.
It's always been an issue, B.
I come over to Hunter and give him a drink.
With your Edic memory, you've heard people say this before, but there's been no actual, that just hearsay.
I would like to drive a train. Can you get up there and put me at the controls of the
That's
train?
I think you need to be drinking right now, Hunter.
I can drive the train. I'm pretty sure it's just got like a throttle.
I think
or
we should just
something.
move the party to
Probably.
the front of the train.
Although they do have rigid schedules, so
You're trying to cruise your way up to the front, and you're like, no, my friend wants to drive the thing. It's all the acceleration and what have you.
I am rich. We need our own train, so I'm going to put that on the agenda. Buy a train.
All right, I go after
Private
the party car.
cars.
Why don't you just get one of those flying like forts like the MI5 has?
Because that's so unrealistic by us. We want
That's a
shit
good
that we
idea,
can crash
too.
actual
Flying
things
Ford.
into.
That's what else I need, a flying
Or you
Ford.
could get like a flying train like on Back to the Future.
MI5 did have contragravity technology, from what I understand. It's just they were having difficulties implementing it at a smaller scale.
You know, we could have used the
So a train would be
backpack
ideal.
door and got there quicker.
You could have teleported.
I go
there,
after
don't
the
know.
party
That's
car.
what you
No,
guys
the
wanna do.
backpack that he has that opens up the little.
Yeah, you guys have used that before.
Yeah, we could have just done that. Would have been there. Let's just like that.
Try to relax. Not think about how people are screwing up the way I'm traveling.
I will talk to D7 in the car, and I'll ask her, general techniques for using a sword and a shield, and
She doesn't know too much. I suppose she doesn't know anything practical about using a shield, but she can teach you a fair amount of techniques regarding a broadsword.
have you always fought Florentine style?
She says that they have a practice techniques for their type of swordplay and what she would say is their type of martial arts. She does seem to stress that a little bit, but she doesn't go into it too much.
All right.
She obviously doesn't. She seems to be not incredibly adept at social interplay, other than she is fairly quiet and.
Hunters in love.
That's the Ice Queen.
She doesn't know how to relate to people. Just
During
like
the
kind of
first 3 hours,
woman.
obviously Brendan is trying to learn protect spell.
Okay, that'd be one of the first days
Yep,
on it.
yep.
It takes about 4 days. Otherwise, I mean, you hear some people complain about some of the cats that are in the food cali, and then Artemis kind of gives 1 or 2 of them a stink eye. There had been at one point in time where Artemis, was it Scarlet would never do something like that. However, you feel that Artemis, you didn't have any
We
power
have
up.
the professor with too, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
the
Okay,
professor
I
with.
just want to make sure.
Puddin pretty much just like sits around and is
We've
like
got a box
she looks
that
at the
sits in the box.
sausages and expects someone to bring sausages.
I'll give the
Scarlet kind of
sausages.
meanders. She relaxes, but she's not necessarily a glutton. Artemis, however, seems to kind of sit where people are sitting. And they're like, "That's my fucking. Can you get my cat? Or is it this cat out of my seat?" And Artemis just kind of flares up and looks at him. However, no one else realizes this is some sort of powerful entity. It's just a house cat. But you're fairly confident at one point in time somebody was making it out one of the far doors. The car's going to another door, and he hit the door even though he should have walked straight through.
Yeah.
And he's like, "What is it?" They're like, "Hey, buddy, you need to lay off the sauce."
I smile at her. Give a nod.
That's it. Otherwise, D7 is fairly quiet. The cats seem to kind of relax and kind of move around. Some people are very happy to kind of see some cats on the train. Artemis is very adamant about getting up
in.
and.
Like, by me, but I'll have Puddin order like what she wants. So
Yeah,
it'll
Puddin's
be,
fine
like,
with that. She'll
put in
reach
front
up,
of
and they'll find
her.
it. Some people find it adorable that you've taught your cat how to pick menu items.
This one.
Like, ooh, your cat's fancy. She wants the expensive items.
He just demands your respect.
That's funny.
Otherwise,
Travel.
you arrive very late to, what is it? Probably, early in the, when the hell would that be? 13
33 hours.
Yeah, it'd still be
Bullshit,
fairly
my ass.
late when you guys arrive inside of Florida. You guys come out at this train station. The cats are fairly relaxed. Most of the time, the cats spend some time sleeping. They haven't had any particular reaction to D7. There's only a couple things that they... there's only certain things that they don't like. Otherwise, they pretty much tolerate people for the most part. Otherwise, the same thing when you notice when you relax, when you guys drink. Not even like full-on partying, but when you're just kind of...
Lounging.
what the hell is it? Big Lebowskiing it up.
Yeah.
You seem to get a measure of power investiture.
Yes. I get shit faced a lot quicker.
I mean, you're not necessarily doing anything. You're like, I'm sprawled on the ground. You're like, but you can feel powerful. If someone were to disrupt your sleep cycle, you could bring on the full wrath of Bast on them.
World of hurt coming.
I try to teach her and learn from her.
What do you teach her?
I teach her about the Moo language. Do you know anything about the original Moo language?
She
Ever
doesn't
heard
know
of it?
anything. No.
Serious? You don't
Oh my
know about the
goodness.
original language
I'm
of
still the
mankind?
master of the group on the
She knows nothing of that.
My God.
I give her some
You
background.
just give every secret away.
She's not even drinking yet.
She's not even drinking yet.
She does seem to be adept at symbol drawing.
So where was your security?
She had
breach
said
at?
that she has some background in thaumatology.
And you guys were worried I was going to go.
I'd talk to her about
Half
thaumatology. How many skill points do I feel she's put into it?
From what you can tell, it's hard to get a little bit of information from her. But every once in a while, when you interact, normally it's very difficult to interrogate her. But every once in a while, when you engage her in casual, truthful conversation, it seems as though she doesn't have. I suppose when you go more from interrogation to actual casual carousing,
Yeah.
she doesn't have as firm of a
Means of defense.
Means of a defense in casual conversation. You get a feel that she probably has a 13 or a 14 in thaumatology.
Okay.
You do know that she knows some spells, but apparently they have means of defending themselves from magics, but she doesn't really detail it. Yeah.
Thaumatology, 15. Carousing. That's why I prior brain open. A mere 12. That's what I really sad. I'm going to have to improve it.
Your carousing is a 12?
It's a 12.
That's what you tried.
The one thing you do notice is the pistol on her right side does seem to have certain elements that you'd seen from designs that you'd pulled from Mechalot regarding laser weaponry, but the other two devices don't have the same structure and general design.
Does she eat food in front of me? When our lunches come.
When the
here's
lunch
some
comes,
tray.
it seems like she takes out an object from the web gear, kind of shines a blue light over it. She looks at something, and then she will take her helmet off, and you guys saw the picture. She is relatively attractive, but it does look like she has maybe a cut or two here, maybe where it looks like a nose was kind of reset, but
Okay.
she eats the food fairly quickly, puts back
She's
on
not
the
over there
helmet.
lounging like some people.
No. It seems like the concept might even be slightly foreign.
I'll turn it into a game. It's no longer now.
As soon as she's done with all the
upside down.
food, she cleans up her face and she puts on the helmet. She gets her hair and then puts it down.
All right.
And her hair is probably not longer than this, so it
right.
fits in the helmet fairly quickly.
We arrive in Florida.
You going to arrange it so I can drive the train on the way back, or at least drive a car on the way back?
I'll look into
It's
it.
maddening.
This is maddening.
You're not sure. You can't kind of drive it, but you think you can control the throttle, and that might help.
Exactly.
So, arriving inside of Florida, you have the rough area. It's, like I said, about 40 miles outside of Orlando. You can try to get a cab from here or possibly get hitchhike, something of that nature.
Would definitely buy a car, or rent a car.
Okay.
We're not
Cab.
too good with
I'm used to the
renting cars.
cabs. We rent a cab. I tell them my friend's going to drive. I'm rich. How much is it going to take?
The individual seems to perk up, and he tells you maybe about $1 a mile. He kind of looks at you.
I'm going like this.
He says, "Oh, but it's the off season, so about $1.50 or $3."
How much does
He
free
seems to
run
throw
out?
that out, but he's not sure if it's going to land.
No odometer. I read it off. $3 a mile is fair. Is there any train companies near here that are for sale that you know of? B&O,
For sale?
Meany, whatever.
I can look into it.
Short line.
There is.
Smaller company would be ideal.
I'm not for sale. I know some guy that works at the rail
me
station. I
keys,
can
buddy.
ask him. He'll hand over the keys. He seems to be not sure if this is really happening, or but he's sitting down. He's kind of suppressing a smile a little bit, and
$3
it's like,
a
so where
mile.
are we going?
Thanks,
What? I just got one. Do you own this vehicle?
He says, "Yeah."
Yeah, we're sorry.
Well, you're not going to turn it over. I mean,
No.
of course. I mean, but
All right,
then
let's
again, you
start
could
with-
reimburse me if something happened like that.
Yes. Private detective. I tell him where he's located.
All right.
Give my friend directions.
Okay.
We drive there.
This
I
is
drive
car
there.
number 5 for us.
You can give me a land nav. You have the lat long, but of course you have to follow the roads
What
in the
about your
region.
motorcycle?
That one just blew up.
Your motorcycle, did
That
you
one
do
never
it?
got out of the garage.
No, that one actually hit something and it blew up. Actually, 2 of my trucks have blew up. And,
So by 5.
Okay.
and my motorcycle.
Otherwise, I would say that after you guys got out of the train, you lost track of D7 for a moment. Other than she has kind of a larger, what appears to be a large jacket that kind of runs down to her legs, and her helmet's kind of off to her side behind her. And she looks a little bit odd, but she's covering a lot of her equipment, and she seems to just pass by people. Some people give her an odd look, but they don't stop her.
That's map case to the door.
Yep. No more out of place than some of the rest of your characters.
Oh, I just look like a circus freak.
Yes.
I'm in Florida, though. So
We
I
got
can
the
fit in.
professor there with the cat and the papoose walking around.
Everyone's got a cat, so it's not as
Yeah, everybody's got a cat. They
Yours is in a
follow him.
papoose.
You've got yours in the papoose, and
Yeah.
it kind of hangs.
Exactly.
You do have your own.
That's
social-
fine. Hey, you guys start throwing $3 a mile out there. They
Yep.
just assume you're rich eccentrics.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you have Eliza Doolittle following you all over.
Yep.
The place.
Only blue M&Ms. Get the rest of them out of there.
Yes, right away.
Yeah.
Mistress.
I'm ready for you to train her how to say the rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain.
What?
Next time you'll be paying the cabbie, so keep that in mind.
Why?
Because you're over there. I saw you in the mirror.
So you'll drive out there. It only takes...
It's a young lad. He looks like he needs a leg up. Think of it that way, B.
All right.
Well,
Sounds fair.
I'd probably say that it looks like some sort of like middle-aged
Middle-aged
Scrooge. Yeah. You're not sure how he got to here in his life, but he's doing pretty good today. You guys get out there probably in about 30 minutes. You make excellent time. Cabby's a little bit surprised, but he's mostly just kind of looking at that odometer and suppressing a smile.
Yeah.
What have you. Once you get out there, he says he can keep the odometer spinning, waiting for you guys to come
You
out.
put the car up on blocks? Go.
No. As in, you guys get out as close as you
You
can.
drive on the block?
No. You drive up to that region, and then from there, you'll either have to hike in, but kind of when you get dropped off, he says you can leave it running if you need like another
I thought we were
vehicle.
going to the PI,
PI.
not the...
Oh, the PI,
not
excuse
the
me.
site.
Yeah.
Then at that location, he'll say that he'll keep it running,
Yep.
waiting for you guys to get back.
The PI it is.
Okay. Talking to the PI, he'll look around. It does seem as though he recognizes your face.
Yeah.
He allows you to come in.
These are my associates.
He says, okay.
The cab driver's in the cab. I tell him, you keep the meter running or whatever. I'm paying you per mile. So
He says, of course.
when you're sick of getting paid per mile, let me know. We can negotiate a new deal.
No, I think that's fine. I mean,
Yeah, I hear you. This 10 miles here is $30. We go in.
There's his weekly salary.
Yeah, maybe monthly.
if the average income in this time period, I think, is $1,600. So it's a fair amount of money, $30.
But that's really hazard pay, because what if we come out and he's dead?
He doesn't know it's hazard pay.
Exactly.
From his perspective, he's not going to be attacked by demons from the swamp. He's just going to be like $30 or $3 or $3 a
Besides,
mile.
if he dies
This is
before he
fucking
gets
awesome.
paid, guess what? He doesn't have to pay for him.
You guys don't
Also
say like,
okay.
"Here's $20. I want to drive," and you might die tonight.
What?
You might die.
Okay.
But
Don't
it is
fall
50-50 that we come back. It's a smoking crater out there.
Yep. All right. So talking to the private investigator, he'll give you maps of the region. He's talked to some of the locals from the region. They've kind of seen strange kind of blue and yellow lights out there. Some people think that they're fairies. The area has been known as kind of an unusual location, other than there's been kind of no accidents that he's aware of or any kind of other strange mumbo jumbo happening out there.
Okay.
He has a rough idea where it is. He's contacted a boating company that can get you out there.
Awesome.
He'll give you the name for them. I told him that you'd be coming. I don't know if you're going in specifically or not, but they have something idling for today. From there, he expects it'll probably take about 15, 20 minutes to get into the swampland there. He says there are gators, so you have to be careful.
Okay.
Other than your guide will kind of handle that. He says this is some of the information about the people. He had talked to some of the people that were hired as guides when the original expedition came in through here, and they didn't find anything terribly unusual. He'll show you kind of some of the pictures that they had and what he had recovered from them.
Yeah.
It appears that there's something sunken out there, but they weren't able to dig it up. It's close to about, he would say, 4 meters. It's only the top stone that is actually visible, and the rest of it's kind of teetered at a 30-degree angle, kind of going down into the swamp.
Could be a pyramid, do you think?
He says he doesn't know enough to...
I'm interested in buying a train. I want you to look into it for me.
He says like a train car or like a
train that I can, a locomotive. I want a newer one, and some fine
just drive a car.
cars.
Why do you have to insist on buying a train?
I'm just going to have them look into it. So I'm
Yes,
going to
you
buy
And
it.
then you're angry that you got to pay $3 a mile. That's all I'm saying.
Now
That is
she's
correct.
an
I know, but if I own a train,
the
then
PI
I'll
says
pay
$3 a mile. What are you driving?
Yeah. Please. I said, I was ripped off.
I do laugh.
My friend. Yes. Anyway.
Wait a second. You didn't get paid $3 a mile, did you, to do this work?
No, he's getting
No.
15-cent standard federal
He
rate.
gave him the standard
Yeah.
rate. It was decent. I mean, there was some leeways if he got like an extra large meal, but relatively speaking, it was within reason.
Basically, I take a check, write it out for whatever amount he says. I add on 50% more. I say, look into this train matter. I just want to know if it's reasonable for me to do this, so I don't have to look into it myself.
Okay.
Eccentric.
Is there a type of rail line that you wanted it on, or?
Standard U.S. rails, you mean?
You don't want to
Yeah.
go European narrow gauge?
I think
No, but he says that I mean, there's certain rail companies and they charge like a.
Oh, they do.
a user fee.
Whatever one operates out of New York.
On the East Coast?
Okay.
East
You can take a
Coast
look
or
into
East
it.
Coast, yeah.
He says that's not a standard fare, but he could definitely look into
Okay,
it.
just look into it. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll never get back to you, but there's some retainer. I thank him for his case file
Okay. And he hands over the pictures, the map locations. They should help.
and a guide, you say?
He has the
Original guides or whatever?
the address to a boating company. They don't have a phone there,
Okay.
but I told him your description and be expecting you today, sometime today or tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We'll head there next.
Okay.
We leave.
The land nav I had you made earlier was actually for getting kind of up into
Oh,
this particular region, but you can find that location fairly easily.
We go to the guides next
Sure.
and ask them what kind of extra equipment we should bring with. We'll probably want to be out there for 5-6 days.
Okay. The boating company, he would say that one of them was the guides that kind of go out into that region.
Is it permissible to carry hunting rifles out in the swamps?
He says, yeah, the standard, what the hell is it? The standard concealment laws depending on this region. I don't know what they are for Florida, but I believe you can open carry here in Florida at this time period.
Okay.
So, yeah, provided you're not being belligerent with it.
Nope. Alright, there we go.
And
Into the swamps.
there, yes,
What was it, Frank?
swamps.
He says there's not anything particular. He'll give you some mosquito netting. He'll be burning up some burlap. He gives you flashlights if you spend too long in there. He said primarily just don't put your hands in the water and splash them around. Keep your hands inside the boat at all times. He'll kind of be on the lookout for gators. You shouldn't have to worry about that. It's only if you do something stupid like run out there or make your hand look like a fish.
I'll ask D7 if her suit is waterproof.
She says if she puts the helmet on, yes.
Okay.
Won't be much of a suit, B. Come on, you're a scientist.
It's an environmental suit.
Before we even
Is
get
it
in the
pressure
boat,
rated, I ask her?
She says it is.
before we get in the boat, I'll throw up deflect harm. Just
To what depth?
She would tell you that it has pressure support 3 atmospheres. However, she would say that she has a beacon to the relay if something like that were to occur.
All right.
What she's equating to is she has a site-to-site.
Teleport.
Transpose.
You guys theoretically do if you bring that relay device. It just yours isn't necessarily waterproof
Yeah.
up to 4 meters.
Yeah.
Like it's in the swamp. We're like, yeah, okay, sort it
That's
out.
right.
That's right.
Can't have nice things. I do have my relay with me, by the way.
Okay. Like
All
I said,
right.
it's a small backpack that's kind of similar to a World War I radio.
I let the driver know.
It's kind of a mid-sized pontoon. I would say by the time you guys get in,
I get back by where the controller is for the boat, and I sit down.
Okay.
Ready?
You may want to take drive all kinds of vehicles, including train.
I don't drive them crazy. I drive, very slow.
Yep.
And
And
leisurely.
like I've said before, what is it? Like you guys know, if
Not
you're
doing-
driving a vehicle, like once you're comfortable with it, the boat, I'd say you guys have cultural familiarity with a boat,
Yeah.
provided you're not doing any kind of combat roles. Now,
No.
like gator men start attacking from the swamp, then it may require some boating roles.
Sure.
He's like, flipped her over. Everyone, good luck.
Into the water. We're taking the fight to the enemy. Even when I drive a car, you don't see. I never drive any crazy speed or anything like that.
All right.
All right. So heading out there, the guide, he does question it a little bit, but he kind of gives you some pointers on how to use the boat. He tells you what regions. If he asks you to slow down, he expects you to slow down right away.
Sure.
And he says it'd probably only take about. He says he looks over at you and he says maybe 20 minutes to get out there. You guys
Get out
continue to
there
go out there.
15.
You guys get out there now. Actually, about 12 minutes. He seems a little bit surprised, but
the wind was with us.
Yep.
he checks his compass and kind of tells you that we should be expecting it up here on the right sometime. I would say that you guys probably spent some time in a hotel. You got there around like maybe midnight of the next day after from the train ride. Probably spent 6 hours inside of a hotel or something, which you could easily paid for.
Yep.
And then you talk to the PI early in the morning. Then you're out here. So other than he kind of has the insect netting, he starts the kind of burlap burning, which the smoke is kind of getting you in the face, and you guys are fine with it. Just
What are you burning the burlap for?
this is insects.
Insects, that's right.
So they get pretty thick here in the swamp.
Yeah.
Keep the mosquitoes away, my friend.
All right.
That's why
You
I
guys
get
have
the
some
flex
kind of
armor.
thick insect netting kind of around your person that he would have provided, but you guys head out there. He doesn't have any on, but
Okay.
Flex arm over the body. That's it.
do some hand sigils. Or was
Yep.
it
Okay,
the
so
deflect
that's
harm?
it, yep.
Deflect harm is one of the few chantry spells that's actually a physical
No,
hand
this,
motion.
mine's still on. Cats.
Oh, the cat's deflect harm? Or are you talking about the deflect prime?
No, I guess I do have deflect arm chantry.
Yeah.
Sure.
But that's a hand. That's a hand sigil, and it's gesture based, so that's actually more Bastite friendly than the rest of the chantry spells. So, heading on to the region, you guys will make your perception checks. You'll end up finding the location. You can see at the top of a standing stone, there's moss kind of covering it. It does look as though there were some kind of wooden struts that were out here maybe a few years ago, kind of marking the area, and even creating a little bit of a bridge around the region, but it's obviously started to sink into the swamp and is already started to degrade out here.
Put on my matter manipulation gloves and try to clean the debris away from the standing stones.
Okay.
Can we
What
just
do you
wait
see
till
in your
the...
goggles?
Are you preparing the boatman to see this?
I'm
As you're like, let me touch this water.
Doing something.
I'll wait till they back off before.
Now, if you had the rough eye area. If you wanted to try to convince the boatman not to come along, you could have
It's only 12 minutes away.
Via
That's-
him.
by a
Okay,
swamp.
or 15, or whatever.
Tell him to come back in a couple of hours. Or a day.
Why don't we just ask them to put a blindfold on?
That's not all creepy. Put this blindfold on and plug your ears.
Or ask him to go find a decent spot to actually set up camp.
And we're just going to wait around in the swamp out here?
Or we're going to be out here for like 6 days.
Yeah.
No, he would recommend that you come back to the boating shop and then every day, because it only takes maybe 15 minutes to get out here. He would recommend that rather than stay out in the swamp. He says you don't want to stay out in the swamp at night.
That might be the time we want to be
Gators
there,
and insects and all sorts of nasty stuff out here.
Recluses.
He says not too much. I mean, you might come across some larger snake variety, but
I meant like
spiders.
folk that don't leave the swamp that are dangerous.
Hermits.
he doesn't know too many about those individuals.
Bringing back
but-
flashbacks of people in swamps and huts, and they would not talk to me.
Do we want to stop?
Yep, I remember that.
do we want to stop there since it's 11?
Yeah.
Is it really 11?
Yeah.
Well, we started at like 8, so. All right, you guys can decide what you want to do with the boatman, whether you want to sit there with a blindfold and earplugs in. Yeah, there you go.
How many XPs?
2 for this session.
Thanks for running.
Yeah, no problem. I'll stop the session there.